Ladies and gentlemen, the Super Bowl is coming up this Sunday, and I was reading this article, and it just made me want to make a little video talking about it, because, it seems like every year Americans love to gamble more and more. And, I figured we could talk about it, so let's go. Alright, so I know that not everybody that watches this channel is a ginormous sports fan, Personally, out of all the sports leagues, the NFL is my favorite. I'm a little bit excited for the Super Bowl. But I was reading this article about how viewership is going to be skyrocketing, and it just casually mentioned gambling will be too. Super Bowl predicted to have the biggest audience yet, and record bets too. Now, the viewership, I don't know. I don't know if this is surprising or not. I didn't really watch much of the regular season this year. I've only really been paying attention to the playoffs. That being said, I would be flabbergasted if this year was not record-breaking in terms of bets placed, bro. If gambling was a watermelon, then the NFL would basically be attempting to shove a watermelon down my throat hole this year with the amount of, gambling and sports books ads that they've had on. Listen, I understand that we live in America, it's a free place, everybody's got the right to gamble, but I do worry a little bit sometimes about, just bombing everyone with gambling commercials, because it is something that people can get addicted to and, ruin their life, And I feel like, at least a little bit right now on some of these commercials, it's like, you can get rich and quit your day job with this sports book. And, gambling can be a fun pastime, but that's all it'll really be, dude. Chances are you're never gonna be able to be winning $80 million by betting on NFL games. There's a reason casinos build billion-dollar casinos. It's not because they're good at losing money. I think the viewership and the gambling might work a little bit hand in hand too, because if you've got some money riding on the game, you're definitely going to be watching, And with more and more people being casual gamblers, it seems like a lot more people are going to have something riding on the Super Bowl. That's just a game theory, I don't know that for sure, but I would assume if you've got money on the game, you tend to watch it more. The 2022 Super Bowl between the Bengals and the Rams is projected to reach a record audience, and betting on the bid game could pass 7 billion. The viewership projection comes from data analytics firm PredictHQ, which estimates the NFL League Championship will attract 117 million viewers on NBC Network, the host of this year's Super Bowl, and that would be an increase of 21% compared to the 2021 Super Bowl, which attracted 96.4 million viewers, or the NFL's lowest audience since 2007. It's insane how many bets are placed on just one game, bro. $7 billion. Obviously, I was born and raised in Las Vegas, so, gambling isn't something that I haven't been around before, but it always blows my mind exactly how many bets will be placed before a UFC fight or a Super Bowl, like a big gambling event. This should be a pretty good inclination, though, as to, why the odds of you coming in and clearing out a casino aren't very good. Mr. High Roller walking in thinking he's gonna do something insane with his $100,000 bet. These casinos are taking $7 billion on a busy weekend. Your 100 grand is just a drop in the bucket. And chances are, if you actually had some insane edge that was gonna clear out the casino, they just wouldn't let you bet. That's something that, a lot of people I don't think necessarily realize about gambling. If someone's bragging about how they're always walking into casinos and placing $100,000 bets, that's not a flex. It means that they suck. Because if you were really, really good at gambling and making a bunch of money, the casinos just stop letting you play because they're not in the business of losing money. They can do that? Yeah, they can. Which is why sometimes when people flex that, I got to place a $1 million bet at Caesars, it means Caesars thinks you're probably a moron, bro. They're not in the business of losing money. Sure, every now and then there's gonna be someone out there that gets incredibly lucky, but overall, it's just wild to me how much gambling is starting to become, super normal. I'm not even against it, dude. I do have a sportsbook account. I do be placing bets. I'm just not delusional out here thinking it's, the key to growing actual wealth. It's gambling. It's in the name. And listen, I'm not going to blame people that get addicted to gambling. I think a lot of it's the marketing about how oh, you can win all this money. And it's yeah, conveniently leaving out the fact that there's a bunch of people around the country that do go broke gambling too. Loop Capital Markets determined a Bengals-Rams Super Bowl matchup would drive new TV sales for Best Buy, and in addition, McGuire Capital notes that NBC sold out of its ad inventory, charging $7 million per 30 seconds in some deals. And that's more than the $6.5 million last year, and up from the $5.5 million they charged for Super Bowl 55, and it's the first time NBC's broadcasting the game since 2018. This speaks to the popularity of the sport this year, where ratings were up 10% overall, and to the underlying strength of the ad market. McGuire wrote in a February 4th note to clients. Advertisers also get more value for their $7 million, with their ads appearing on Telemundo broadcast as well as the Peacock stream. It's insane that we live in a country where so much of our economy can be affected by one sporting event. You know, I think it's like, it goes to show how cool it can be to live here sometimes, dude. One sporting event and they're like, consumer spending is gonna rise 30% in a weekend because of one sport. That's just absolutely bonkers, dude. Like, imagine one sports game actually having a tangible impact on the demand for TVs countrywide. Yep, NFL can do that. You know, whether or not you like football, it is nuts that you can be like, oh, all of the snack food brands are going to have a great month because of the Super Bowl. So many things are just kind of affected by this, and I've never really thought about it until it's all laid out like this. You know, obviously, I knew gambling was going to do well. I knew chips and dips were going to have a good weekend on the Super Bowl. But to hear that, like, TVs, you know, advertising, snack food, flights, people are going to the game. All of this stuff is having like billions of dollars more put into it because of just some sporting event. And what's wild to me too is, like, obviously I would say the Super Bowl is probably the biggest sporting event in America. But the other final games aren't necessarily small either, dude. I think this is probably the easiest to measure because it's one day. Most other sporting events are like a series. But that being said, I'm sure they notice an uptick in like Lay's chips being sold around the Baseball World Series. It's just weird to think about how much all of our economies kind of intertwine, dude. Even if you're in the business of like selling potato chips, you have to be conscious of the NFL schedule because you're going to have a big uptick in demand at the start of February every year. That all inside with gambling, and it's like, dude, what in the world? Only in America could football be like a multi-billion dollar piece of the economy. I know you Europeans got soccer, all right, but you know, these advertisers are nuts though. $7 million for 30 seconds. I guess if you're a sports book though, $7 million for 30 seconds for a cut of the $7 billion bet on this one game isn't that bad of statistics, right? Oh, okay, we paid $7 million, but people placed $1 billion in bets on this day alone. They're like, all right, whatever. It was worth it. Sports betting projected to hit record. On the sports gambling front, the American Gaming Association projected that 31.4 million Americans would bet $7.6 billion on the game. That's up from $3.3 billion last year. Holy cow, double? They estimate 55% of gamblers will bet on the Rams winning the Super Bowl, 45% on the Bengals. Jim McInglevale, better known as Mattress Mac, bet $4.5 million on the Bengals to win. Data from FanDuel shows the Rams are favorites to win by 4 points or less, but 59% of its handle is on the Bengals. Also, as of today, DraftKings shows 54% of its handle on the Bengals too. Sports betting is now legal in 30 states. In Washington, D.C. last month, New York arrived on the market and lured $1.6 billion in wagers, unseating New Jersey as the top sports betting market in the U.S. I mean, obviously I knew that betting was going to be up from last year. A lot more states made it legal, you know, it's been advertised a lot more, people are talking about it a lot more. That being said, going from 3.3 billion to 7.6 billion, holy cow, that's quite the jump, dude. I mean, you know, I just kind of expected a little bit more slow growth, maybe $1 billion, 25% over a year, 100% growth, basically, a little more than that even, in bets placed in a single year is nuts. It does make me wonder, though, like, how much bigger can this industry really get? If it's already legal in 30 states plus DC, then, you know, that only leaves 20 states left. When you start looking at where it's legalized, I'm not sure what big markets don't have it there yet. But I don't know, man. I also am just not too sure if gambling being so normal and everyone being able to place bets from a smartphone is the greatest thing ever. I don't even think gambling should be illegal, okay? I'm not on that front. I just feel like it's the smartphone thing that makes me nervous. If somebody can wager their entire life savings on a game from their iPhone. Like, I don't know, something about that feels weird. At the bare minimum, make them go in and lose their mortgage with dignity at a blackjack table, shoeless on 18 shots of tequila, the way Las Vegas intended. Overall, though, you know, it's just weird to me that everybody's treating gambling like it's some type of investment. I watch this YouTuber, Spencer Cornelia, that's always busting these gurus that are like, I can make you rich with gambling, you know? At the end of the day, whether or not you gamble, just remember, it is gambling. No matter what your strategy is, you are wagering money that you could 100% lose. If you're okay with that and you're just putting some money down to have fun and you know you're gambling, that's all right. But it's not the type of thing that you should be like focusing on to make return on your money and get rich, because it is gambling at the end of the day. Regardless though, I just figured this was interesting. I would share it with y'all, so hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, I'd appreciate you taking a second to press the like button. Let me know in the comment section down below what you thought. If you really want to help me out, subscribe, turn on notifications. I would very much appreciate it. And of course, comment the word poop down below. It helps me hit recommended. If you want to be really, really fantastic, I'll put a link to this Spotify show that I've got going on at the top of the description. Feel free to go give those a listen. I would very much appreciate it. And there's going to be another link in the description that's a link to the merch store. As you can see from your screen right now, this hoodie is absolutely fantastic, and it can be yours by visiting the link in the description, so be sure to go do that. On that note, though, guys, I think that'll really do it for the video. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and hopefully I'll see you guys all next time. I'm going to go bet my entire house on the Super Bowl. I'm out. Peace. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrubby here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. And today I've got a story time I know you guys are going to like. It involves a dad going ballistic at a parent-teacher conference and fighting the teacher because apparently him not wanting to assign homework is like lazy and he hates the students or something. I don't know. All I know is dad went crazy. I knew it would be a video that you guys would enjoy. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. So like I said, this story time was sent in to me, and this particular person had to go to like one of the parent-teacher after school things that they do at the start of the year. They're not in school anymore. This was a while ago, but basically your mom, your dad, whoever's gonna go with you, you just go to all of your classes for 15 minutes. They meet the teacher, do a little explanation of this is what the class is, this is what we're gonna do, all that stuff. The parents go, wow, your teacher seems so nice. You go on your way. It's pretty boring for the most part because, you know, it's just parents asking questions about schooling and you're just sitting there awkwardly, but whatever. He was at this parent-teacher conference demonstration, get to know them thing with his mom, and most of the teachers were being pretty lame, but there was one teacher that he was excited about to have for the year. He was like a young teacher, fresh out of college, and was pretty cool compared to most teachers. I feel like teaching is one of those things, if somebody's new to teaching, they still got the love for it, you know? They're like, oh man, I'm gonna make teaching awesome. By year 30, they're like, all right, as long as you guys don't die for the next 45 minutes, I'm gonna put my head down and take a little nap. But this teacher was pretty cool. He had just gotten out of college. He played video games, so a lot of the kids liked him, and he was excited for his mom to see how the class worked. So whatever, they get into that classroom, and the teacher makes a joke at the beginning of his little presentation, and most of the parents laughed. But there was one dad sitting like 2 rows away that made an audible like, ugh, sound when the guy made a joke. Which, hey, maybe it wasn't his sense of humor. That's fair. He's like, oh, I didn't think that joke was very funny. But there's no reason to make an audible noise if you don't like somebody's joke. Imagine that, some guy's just about to do a presentation in front of like 70 strangers. All right, guys, I've never done this before. Oh, get off the stage! It's not a stage, I'm just a teacher trying to do a presentation. I don't care, get off of it. But for whatever reason, the dad just seemed incredibly upset that this teacher had dared to try to make a joke, but the teacher doesn't really notice and starts talking about his class, which is what he's supposed to do. He was a government teacher, and he's talking about how, like, he wants kids to learn about the government and how it works, because one day they're gonna run it, blah, 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 all that teacher stuff that they say. And then he gets to a point where he says, one thing that I do a little bit differently than other teachers at this school is I don't give out homework, which is a pretty cool thing to do. I feel like most teachers that I had when I was in school didn't really have that mindset. It was more like, how do I give as much homework as humanly possible? I want you to be thinking about my class 9 hours a day, so I'm gonna make sure that I give you enough work to do 12 hours of homework just to get a little bit of extra out of you. But if you have 6 classes giving you 12 hours of homework, you're pretty screwed. I don't know, my teachers were big fans of homework, but this particular teacher didn't like it, and he was telling the parents that he didn't believe in homework because he had hated it when he was in school and it had made him a lot less passionate about the subjects, and he didn't want that to happen with his class. Plus, he knew that a lot of other teachers were homework heavy, so by not giving them homework, it gave them more time to focus on other classes, and he felt like the time he had during the class was enough to teach people about the government. And that's a very cool thing to do. Like, honestly, that's a pretty cool teacher move. Be like, all right, I can teach you guys proficiently in the hour they give me. I don't have to give a ton of homework. It's better for the kids. The other teachers are still going to give a lot of homework. You're going to get respect from the students because they're going to be like, this guy's making my life easier at least. And most of the parents were cool with it. A couple of them were like, oh, that's really awesome. That's cool of you. But the dad that didn't like the joke at the beginning of the parent-teacher conference apparently really hated the fact that his daughter wasn't going to be getting flooded with homework. You mean I'm gonna have to spend time with the kid? It won't be doing homework every day for hours on end? What the heck? I'm not alright with this. That's not what he said, but the dad raised his hand, which is hilarious. I don't know why it's always so funny to me when an adult raises their hand, but it's just a funny sight. That was the polite thing to do. I guess you should raise your hand, but imagine just like a 50-year-old man raising his hand waiting for permission to speak. I don't know why. It's just kind of a funny image. And the teacher asks him, okay, what's up? And he starts to ask why he doesn't do homework. And so the teacher just kind of re-explains what he had already explained about, well, when I was in school, I really hated homework. It would make me not like the classes as much. I don't want them to do that with my class, so I don't give homework. And it was like that answer just did not compute in this dad's brain because he's like, okay, but don't they need to do homework to learn the stuff? And the teacher is like, no, they don't. I learned plenty of things and I didn't always do my homework, so I just don't believe it's necessary. And even if, for whatever reason, you're a parent out there and you're super pro homework, you just love the idea of your kid getting a bunch of extra work at the end of the day, that's a pretty fair reasoning. Is like, I don't think my class needs it, they get enough, and I don't want them to hate my class. You might not agree, but it's pretty fair. But this dad starts to be like, oh, are you sure that's why you don't assign them homework? And the teacher's obviously confused because that's what he said. So what do you mean? Am I sure that that's why I'm not assigning homework? And the dad basically accuses the teacher of being a young idiot who doesn't know what he's doing, who was only not assigning homework so he would have less stuff to grade. Which, even if that is the case, bro, the kids don't care. I promise you, every single student in that classroom was very okay with the idea of not getting homework, even if it was because he didn't want to grade it. But the teacher is getting defensive because no teacher would like to be told that they're lazy and don't want to do something, and he's like, I have nothing against grading homework. Trust me, I have a lot of things to grade. They do a lot in class. I just don't think that I need to send home extra work, and I don't understand why that upsets you. And a couple of the other parents in attendance kind of come to the teacher's aid. They're not overtly attacking the dad that's all pissed off, but they start talking to the dad about, think about the kids. They're getting so much homework from these other classes. I think it's a nice idea that he gives them a class where they don't have to worry about it as long as they're learning about the government. And even a couple of the students that were there with their parents are like, honestly, this class is the one that I learn the most in because I look forward to it, so I pay attention. All the classes that flood me with homework, I just don't really want to be there, so I'm not paying total attention. So everyone's kind of defending the teacher. And the dad at that point thought that, oh man, everyone's against me, because he starts saying that, I don't know why everyone in this classroom is ganging up on me. Did you guys have a meeting or something before this that if anyone tried to attack the teacher, you would defend him? Yeah, bro, everybody at this parent-teacher conference had a meeting last night and said, specifically when this dude shows up, he's gonna get pissed off. So let's just really defend the teacher. Everybody's got that much free time on their hands. I don't know why anyone would think it's that important, dude. This parent-teacher conference itself isn't that important, let alone trying to, organize a protest to defend the teacher for not giving homework. No one did that. And obviously the other parents that are getting accused of colluding with the teacher kind of reject the idea and tell him he's being ridiculous. And at that point, the teacher is just over it and tells the dad that he should probably just leave because he's not going to like the rest of the speech and he doesn't really feel like it's comfortable for anyone else. And the dad is like, oh, you're telling me to leave right now? This is my daughter's class. You have no right to tell me that I can't stay here. And the teacher tells him, well, you say you hate the way I teach. You say the hate the way that I'm doing everything. So I don't know why you would want to stay. I'm letting you know that if you stay, you're going to hate the way that I teach my class and you're not going to like any of this. So you should just leave. And at that point, the dad stands up out of the desk, which, once again, probably a very funny sight, just a grown-up sitting in a school desk standing up. And he starts walking up to the teacher. And the teacher says, don't come up to me, like, stay away from me. And the dad's having none of it. He's seeing red, and he's like, you're going to disrespect me in front of all these people. I'm not going to take it. I don't know who you think you are. And he's getting closer to the teacher. And the teacher does the thing where you put your hands up, not like all the way, but kind of by your shoulders. The whole, hey, I'm not a threat thing. Please don't come at me. I don't want any trouble. I feel like that's the universal kind of symbol for that. The hands kind of up. And the dad keeps coming at him. So the guy's hands are up. It's not like he's in a position to fight him. But the dad screams out, are you trying to hit me? And then swings on the teacher. And I think personally, obviously I'm not the dad that hit him, so I don't know for sure, that he said that to try to convince people that the guy was going to swing on him first, so it was self-defense. Only problem is everybody is watching, and he hits the teacher, and he does connect, it hits him, but you would think that if you're going to get up out of the desk, storm up to the teacher, and hit them, you would know what you're doing, dude. Like, you should never hit the teacher. I don't advocate for violence, I don't advocate for hitting the teacher, but if you're gonna go ahead and attack someone in front of a bunch of people, you should know how to punch. You might as well make it like what you think's gonna happen in your head. Well, this dude storms up to the teacher, hits him, does connect on his face, and the teacher just doesn't even like, ow. He just kind of is standing there, and he goes, sir, did you just hit me? Which has to be one of the most ego-draining things somebody could say after you hit them in the face. Like, imagine you are so pissed off, you're angry, that's it, I'm gonna hit you. You punch someone in the face as hard as you can, all your might. You are trying to do a Dragon Ball Z anime arc level punch, and you hit the person in the face, wapow, power of 1,000 suns, and they just look at you and go, did you just hit me? My goodness, that would have to suck the wind out of your sails. It would suck the wind out of your soul at that point. Nothing would make you weaker than a situation like that, dude. Like, feel weaker. Hi-ya! Oh, wow. That kind of tickled. But the dad doesn't keep swinging. He doesn't keep hitting him. And a bunch of other parents at that point get up and separate them. And everyone's yelling at him like, why did you hit the teacher? What's wrong with you? And now he's getting mad at everyone because, I don't know, he thought everyone was going to be on his side. Pretty stupid idea. Okay, here's my plan. I'm going to punch the teacher that just said he's not going to assign homework so that way the kids have more free time. And everyone's going to be like, yeah, that's what we wanted. Knock him out. In fact, that's not enough. Keep punching him. Go, go, go. No one was going to be on your side, bro. I don't think anyone's going to see you just punch some poor dude in the face and be like, oh, that guy's cool. I love when people just start hitting others. And either way, once the dads have them split apart and they're holding him back, he hadn't swung on the teacher again, but now that he's being held back, he starts going all tough guy drama mode. Oh, you're lucky that they're holding me back right now. I want to keep fighting you, but they're holding me back, and you're so lucky that they're holding me back. And it seems like he's struggling against the people that are holding him back, but it's obvious to everyone watching that he's struggling just enough to look like he's struggling, but not enough to actually break free, trying to save his own ego. At that point, everyone in the room already hates you. You're just pretending like you're gonna go beat him up to try to save whatever ego you have left in your brain. The teacher, though, doesn't let it get to him. You know, he's not like, oh my gosh, I just got hit. If anything, he's so calm that it starts to mess with the dad a little bit, because while he's screaming out that, like, they should let him go so he can fight him again, he gets a lot quieter when he realizes that the guy's not intimidated at all. He's not afraid. He's not like, keep him away from me. Probably because the punch was so weak. As I said, the teacher asked him, did you just hit me? I don't know if it was out of shock or because he genuinely wasn't sure. But what, even if they do let you go, you're gonna run over to him and, like, gently tap him on the face with your knuckles? I don't think he would be afraid of that. And the teacher is so calm that he just walks over to the desk, picks up the phone, calls the administration, and says, yeah, we have an incident. One of the parents just hit me in the face. Yeah, no, I'm not kidding. Please send someone. Which on the other end was probably really confusing. They're just chilling in the office. I love the parent-teacher conference day. Nothing really happens. All the parents are here, so everyone's on their best behavior. There's gonna be no fights because it would be absurd for a parent to get in fight while just meeting the teacher. Ring ring. Oh, hello? Someone punched you in the face? Really? Are you messing with me? I'll be right there. Either that or they were hyped to go. They were like, oh man, nothing's happened all day. Sweet, we get to go arrest somebody's dad. And as soon as the teacher calls the office and lets the guy know that people are coming down to deal with the situation, he stops struggling against the people holding him back to go fight the teacher. And instead, he starts struggling against them to just get out of the door. It was like a little kid who's acting all bad when they think no one's around and then they find out that someone's gonna tell their mom. And they just start doing anything they can to get away. Like, please don't tell my mom. That's basically what's going on. He's trying to get away and he's yelling out. Full-grown man who just punched a teacher, I don't want to see the principal. I don't want to see the principal. You should have thought about that before you punched the teacher in the face. You want to know a guaranteed way to not have to deal with the principal? Don't hit the teacher. I know, crazy. And while all this is going on, it's even more embarrassing because his daughter is just standing there yelling at him, asking why he has to embarrass her everywhere they go and why he couldn't just keep it together for one day. Which I do feel bad for her, dude. Imagine this being your parent. Everywhere you go, he tries to fight someone. You're like, okay, you can come to my parent-teacher conference. Just please do not fight my teacher. Can you at least promise me that, Dad? Like you won't fight my teacher? Yeah, sure, no problem. He punches the teacher every time. We go to Wendy's. You hit the drive-thru worker. We go to Lowe's. You start knocking out the guy mixing paint. Remember the one time we tried to ride the bus and then you caused an accident because you put the driver in a chokehold? You can't do this everywhere we go. But the dad's struggling. He finally gets out of the hold of the people though, and he runs out the door before the principal can get there, and they see him run out of the end of the hallway, which is these double doors that lead to the parking lot. So they're aware that he's going to leave, but he left behind his kid, bro. Pretty important thing. So the daughter's standing there and she's like, my dad left. And one of the other parents is like, okay, well, we can give you a ride home. And she's like, okay, thank you. And obviously everybody's like, this was absurd. He literally ran away so fast that he made such a quick getaway. He forgot the kid. Pretty important thing to forget. And everybody was asking the teacher if he was okay. And the teacher finally started talking about it and was like, yeah, I'm fine. I don't know what that guy's problem was, though. I didn't realize that not giving homework was so unpopular. And all the parents kind of laughed a little bit and they were like, no, please don't. Like, it's okay. We don't agree with him. We don't know why he did that. Even if he disagreed with you, it's not okay to hit you, which is my opinion. I guess technically you're allowed to love homework. It's your right. As an American, you can believe what you want. You can be super pro homework. Get a bumper sticker that says, I love homework. Get a flag. Fly it above your house 90 feet in the air saying, homework, homework. I don't care. But there's no reason to punch someone in the face for disagreeing on something like that, dude. Like, that's such a stupid thing. Imagine, what do you like better, construction paper or notebook paper? And you answer whatever you answer and the person just starts hitting you in the face because you disagreed. That's how stupid this entire situation was. Either way, the principal finally gets to the class and asks what happened, and a bunch of parents give statements, say what happened. They make sure the teacher's okay. And then they just turn to the daughter who was left behind and they ask for her dad's name, and of course she gives it over. So they're like, all right, we're gonna go to the office, we'll take care of it, blah, 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 blah. Hope everything's okay. And around that time, it was time for them to move on to the next classroom. So the daughter, who had been left by the dad at the school, does go with her friend and her friend's mom to her class, and then they're going to take her home. So she's not like stuck at the school. She's not going to be abandoned. But still, he really left the kid. He said, look, I'm going to punch the teacher, and then I'm going to make my getaway. And as a diversion, I'll just leave my kid behind. They'll never be able to chase me while dealing with that at the same time. Either way, the day ends. People start talking about it. The tale of the dad who punched the teacher in the face. It was kind of all the talk of the school, but whatever. The person who sent this to me on the next school day goes into class where the teacher had been punched in the face, and on his desk is the biggest edible arrangement he has ever seen, bro. It was like they basically took an entire fruit farm, stuck it in a basket, and sent it over, and there was a huge card on the top that said, "I'm sorry." And so everybody sits down for class, and the teacher gets up to start teaching, but before he starts teaching, he's like, "Hey, do you guys like my edible arrangement?" And they all start laughing. They're like, "Yeah, I've never seen a bigger edible arrangement. That's so funny. Who is it from? Like, what is it for? Why is it an apology?" And the teacher just smiles and he goes, "Oh, it's from my biggest fan, the guy who punched me in the face." Bro, this dad had gone to the parent-teacher conference, gotten so mad about homework that he needed to punch the teacher, goes through with it, hits the teacher, runs away before the principal gets there, leaves his kid behind, and then decides, I know just the thing that'll make this right. At that point, I feel like the only way you can make it right is like never show up to the school again or change schools. Those are really your two options. But in his mind, he says, everyone will just forgive me as long as I send a really big edible arrangement. You know, you can punch anyone in the face as long as you send an apology watermelon right after. The class had to laugh at it though, because you kind of have to just like roll your eyes at someone that's that stupid. "I'm sorry for punching you in the face, but I got you an edible arrangement." Either way, I'm sure it was a pretty interesting year for the teacher, just because every time he got an email from that parent, he was like, "Oh yeah, remember when you punched me in the face?" I don't know, I would just recommend avoiding punching people in the face, especially if it's just a teacher doing their job, and especially if it's just a teacher doing their job by not assigning homework. Don't go out of your way to punch them in the face, I just don't get it. Anyways, guys, I do think that'll do it for the video, though. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, please press the like button. Let me know in the comment section down below what you thought. If you enjoyed the video and got this far, if you could go ahead and comment the word knockout down below, I would appreciate it. Helps the video do better. And if you're new, you should subscribe and turn on those notifications, because I post videos like this every single day and you don't want to miss out. Other than that, if you like the videos and want to listen offline without gameplay, whatever floats your boat, I do post the audio over on Spotify. Feel free to go check it out. And I made a new playlist here on YouTube, so if you guys are doing your chores, need something to listen to while you're gaming, whatever it is, feel free to check that out. Both those links can be found in the description. And yeah, on that note, guys, I think that'll do it. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot. I'm out. Peace. Alright, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrubby here. Today we've got to talk about this game, Genshin Impact, because apparently some kid ran up $20,000 on their parents' credit card playing it without their permission. And obviously we had to talk about that, because that's just an insane amount of money for a video game. Let's go. I'm getting quiet now. Laying low when you reach zone, wiping down, making out, stack the bread. Alright, so I've never played Genshin Impact. I know it's a very, very popular game. I know there's a lot of memes about it. I also know that they get a lot of scrutiny because, like, their microtransaction system has been compared to gambling. I don't know enough to comment on it, but I will say it's probably not a good case that a kid spent 20 grand without their parents' permission on loot boxes. Dad gets money back after daughter spends $20,000 on Genshin Impact microtransactions. I'm glad the company gave it back, dude. You know, could you imagine, like, the reaction that you would have to give the company if they were like, "Oh, your kid spent $20,000 without your permission? That sucks." Anyways, good luck. We're gonna be charging 30% interest per month it's late. Like, I feel like the company obviously did the right thing by forgiving it here. But I also feel like if you're the game company, you've got to start putting something in effect to prevent people from running up $20,000 in charges before verifying that they have the card. Like, I feel like certain websites, you know, it's like once a month you gotta like reconfirm that you have to log in, you know, you have to reconfirm your card number, something. I feel like it should also be in effect. Like, if somebody just spends 20 grand on a video game out of nowhere, you probably should mark that as suspicious and double check it's not a kid running up mom's credit card. Imagine spending $20,000 on a video game and then your parents' credit card bill comes and they're like, "What is this?" I don't know, man. Sounds crazy, but whoever bought it has exquisite taste and is a fantastic gamer. Video games have found a lot of ways to monetize themselves other than traditional sales. Some of those are so lucrative that the game can actually be free to play. The popular title Genshin Impact uses a gacha model that is extremely popular among mobile games. Gacha games allow players to buy loot boxes that drop random content, which can be anything from weapons to powerful characters. Even though the players usually tend to avoid these type of games, Genshin Impact has a player base that exceeds more than 50 million monthly players. Honestly, you know, I don't really know much about about Genshin Impact, so I'm not gonna hate on the game itself because I don't know enough, but I will say that this entire model of like the freemium game that is starting to become super popular, low-key isn't actually saving gamers any money. You know, you used to pay $60, I think it would be $80 now by default for a general game because they're raising the prices, but regardless, you used to pay $60, you pay $80 now, you get a game and like you had the game, there you go. I know in a lot of these games you're not required to buy skins, you're not required to buy loot boxes, but that being said, chances are over the time if you really get into like a game with this freemium model, whether it be Fortnite, whether it be Genshin Impact, you know, Overwatch you pay for but it has loot boxes, if you get really into that game, chances are over the span of years and more time, you're going to spend way more in like microtransactions than you ever would have if you just bought the game and got the skins, you know? Back in the day of like Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, you could get all the skins in the game for every weapon by just using them. Like literally getting a certain amount of headshots with each weapon unlocked all the camos. And that's awesome because I paid $60 for the game, I can get all the skins. But like now, in order to get all the skins in Call of Duty, you basically have to sell a kidney. And I know this isn't about Call of Duty, but it's just wild that there's even a possibility to spend $20,000 on microtransactions in any game. I just don't know enough about Genshin Impact to talk about it specifically. I will also say, you know, if your parents are anti-video game and don't like how much time you're spending on it, one way to make sure that they really hate video games is to steal $20,000 from them and charge their credit card. Because like sure, while the company did do the right thing and cancel the charges, you still ran up $20,000 in credit card debt for your parents that they had to rely on the kindness of a company to not take. Back at the end of 2021, a product manager named Ling Changmong found himself with $20,000 in overdue credit card debt linked to almost 100 unknown transactions. Apparently, his daughter had spent all this money buying Genshin Impact pulls over a 6-week period. At first, Mr. Lim managed to get a refund for half the money, but since then, the bank has reimbursed the whole amount. Alright, so once again, I'm not a Genshin Impact expert, but I do know that when it comes to mobile games, like a majority of the money that mobile games make come from whales, you know? And I feel like somebody spending $20,000 on a mobile game over 6 weeks is the definition of a whale. Obviously, it wasn't on purpose. I'm glad the bank has reinvested the money, dude, but Genshin Impact was probably checking their books like, yo, somebody spent 20 grand over the last 6 weeks. They're up spending 7,000%. Dang, we got another potential whale here. Do you know how rich somebody would have to be spending $20,000 on mobile games and like not caring about it? I mean, let's be honest here, $20,000 over the span of 6 weeks, that's a month and a half. So if you make 15 grand a month, you're doing pretty all right by yourself. If you're spending 15 grand a month on Genshin Impact skins, you're doing really well for yourself. Seriously, imagine the stress that this poor like dad felt when he checked the credit card statement and saw $20,000 in debt. He's like, oh my goodness gracious, dude, I'm never gonna be able to retire. Because credit card debt is the worst type of debt to have. Like $20,000 in credit card debt is a lot. The interest rate on that stuff is not gonna be very pleasant to deal with, dude. Not many people have $20,000 just laying around to take care of that, so I'm very glad that the bank took care of it. On top of it, I bet you the company behind Genshin Impact was like, yeah, alright. We make enough money from people spending on our skins anyways. We don't need to, like, put this dude $20,000 deep in credit card debt. That seems like a pretty messed up thing to do, and I'm glad they didn't do that. Overall, you know, everything to be purchased on that computer from now on has to be, like, triple password protected. Putting a credit card into that computer is the equivalent of getting into Fort Knox from now on. Gacha systems have always been very controversial in the gaming industry, and while some players tend to avoid them, others end up showing a level of support that exceeds other type of genres. Fans have seen the term whale tossed around when talking about gacha games. Whales are users who spend a vast amount of money, and they are a crucial part of the gacha games ecosystem, allowing them to make continual profit. I'm sure Genshin Impact is a cool game, you know, like I said, I don't know too much about it, I've said that 3 times now, but this is kind of starting to remind me of, like, Clash of Clans, the way that they're describing it. I know they're not similar at all, don't get it twisted, but, like, you know how there's always people in Clash of Clans that very clearly have spent, like, their last 47 paychecks on their base? I get the vibe that there's a lot of people playing Genshin Impact with the exact same setups. Yeah, you know, I did take out a $40,000 loan to get my setup right, but now that it's right, I'm one of the coolest people in the game. That's the problem with these gacha systems is, like, you know, it's basically pay to win. I know technically in all of these games you could, like, work really hard and grind and get everything, But let's be honest, if somebody can just come in and buy what you just spent 90 hours getting, it's at least a little bit of an aspect of pay to win, you know? Not completely. I don't think that there's many games out there where you can just like pay to press the win button. But at the same time, like as the way Genshin Impact was described, if you can open way more powerful weapons by just spending more money, theoretically, people who spend more money like would be better at the game at the exact same skill level because they'd have better weapons. Unless I'm misunderstanding, which is possible. You know, I'm gonna assume it's the same as most other gacha games, dude. In Clash of Clans, if you've spent $2 grand on the game, you should kick my butt. If you don't, then you suck. Like, imagine spending $20,000 on Genshin Impact microtransactions and like still not being able to be good at the game, you know? At that point, I feel like you just gotta give up gaming as a whole. If you manage to spend like multiple months of salary on microtransactions and still not be goated, then gaming's not for you. Luckily, even though Genshin Impact is considered to be a multiplayer game, the focus for the majority of the community lies in the solo journey. That means that spending big does not give an unfair advantage over other players because players are not going head-to-head competing with each other. However, there are certain traps that can force players to pull for characters in order to maximize their potential by acquiring much-needed constellations. For example, Xiao is a decent damage dealer with no constellations, but at C6 he ascends to a new level and becomes one of the strongest DPS in the game. Exactly, bro, so it's not pay to win, but if you want to have the best character in the game, hand over the dollars. And I especially hate loot box systems more than everything else, just because it's like, listen, if you're gonna make me pay for everything, at least let me just buy it. Like, if the game's free and I've gotta pay $50 to play as Dwayne The Rock Johnson, whatever, that's my $50 I'm trying to part ways with. I love you, Dwayne. That being said, you know, like, if you're gonna make me roll the dice and just keep gambling until I get lucky, it kind of feels like I'm literally a cow being milked for my every last dollar. Like, seriously, dude, do you guys really need the last 50 cents that I have in order to try to get this, like, max level hero? And even if the game is mostly single player, right? Kudos to them. That being said, what if you are into PvP? There's basically no way to compete with the best players unless you buy stuff, is kind of what was outlined there. I mean, once again, I'm not an expert. I've never played it. I could be wrong. Very, very strong possibility. That being said, this just kind of seems like an overall one of those games that has the setup that a lot of games have. I don't want people to think this is strictly a Genshin Impact problem. Like, this is just a gaming industry in general lately, it feels like, problem. Regardless, anytime you've got a game that you can spend 20 grand on microtransactions on, you probably want to be a little bit more careful and make sure it's not a kid running up charges on the credit card. This was not the best publicity, you know, because sure, Genshin Impact's a popular game. Anytime you start talking about, like, is it moral to have people buying loot boxes, it's probably not a conversation you want happening if you're a game that makes money off loot boxes. So, you know, if you avoid people spending 20 grand on loot boxes with their parents' credit card, people will talk about it less. Regardless, I just thought this entire situation was wild. Obviously, it's right up the alley for the channel. We love to talk about gaming news, insane people spending money on dumb stuff. Why not combine the best of both worlds and take out a $20,000 loan to get your microtransaction game up? Anyways, guys, that'll do it for the video. If you really want to help me out, you can press the like button. Let me know in the comments section down below what you thought. If you really, really want to be awesome, comment the word Genshin down below. It just helps the video hit recommended, and I'd appreciate it. Other than that, a link to the intro song will be down below, along with a link to my podcast, The Scuffed Cast, or you could use code Scrubby at the G Fuel checkout to get a discount on G Fuel if you want to get good energy drink for gaming time. Other than that, guys, something that you could do to help me out, I'll put a link in the top of the description to my Spotify show. Feel free to go check that out. You know, you can listen offline, whatever floats your boat. And the last link in the description is a link to the merch store. It's on your screen, and my goodness, you can just tell it's the coolest merch to ever exist. Some would say it's exotic, even. But, yeah, on that note, guys, that'll do it. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot. Hopefully, I'll see you guys next time. This jet really messed up her arrows. That's embarrassing. And I'm out. Peace. Have a billionaire customer with 4 kids. All of them are pretty spoiled, but the youngest one once said to me spitefully, "We're going on the Tiger next week, and you're not allowed to come." Tiger is the name of their yacht in southern Italy. It's not that he's spoiled that gets to me, it's the fact that he knows it and rubs it in. Simple, dude. Next time the kid tries to flex his yacht, just look at him in the eyes and say, "I hope your boat sinks." I guarantee you that'll stop him from ever trying to flex it again, dude. Or, like, just start telling him that there's giant sharks that live off southern Italy that like to specifically eat humans, you know? You just gotta mess with him back. That's how you get in his head. I'm getting quiet now. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrubby here, back again with another video on the Scrubby channel today, double upload special. You guys really enjoyed the one of these I did the other day reading stories about spoiled people, so I figured I would do it again. And yeah, if you enjoy it, comment the word spoiled down below, or no joke, no scam, your kid's gonna end up a spoiled train wreck. And let's get into it. A girl in my grade broke or lost her phone 6 times in the past year, and her parents replaced it every single time. The last time she broke it 2 months ago, she complained because she got an iPhone 6S instead of the new one. Well, they probably had to give you an iPhone 6S because A, you're gonna break it anyways, and B, they probably had bought every new iPhone in the tri-state area, bro. Dr. Doofenshmirtz himself couldn't get his hand on that many technology chips in 2022. I was a camp counselor for a while and had a granddaughter of the man who owns Torky Coffee 1 week. I don't know how materially spoiled she was, but I was baffled that the kid could not understand that having a rich grandpa doesn't entitle her to get to use the only working tetherball alone, because she demanded it. I had to have a 10-minute conversation with her during playground time about how at camp everyone's equals, and thankfully she was fine the rest of the week. Alright, no hate to the kid because they got over it, but imagine being the other kids in this situation. You're like, I want to turn it tetherball. Listen here, Jeremy, your grandpa's a poor, destitute loser. When he's got some bands in his bank account, then you can touch the tetherball, all right, pal? Going to high school with the son of the owner of a large TV company. He thought he should be able to sit alone in the classroom surrounded by unfilled desks. I had the privilege of sitting in front of him and was constantly harassed with attacks from his ruler and pens if he thought I was even remotely leaning back. Dude, I just don't understand why people think money entitles them to, like, smack people with rulers. You know, sure, money technically gets you a cool house, maybe a cool car, but, like, I don't think anyone's bank account just justifies you to be running around with lightsabers acting like you're Luke Skywalker slapping stormtroopers, okay? Calm down. It was a kid at my high school. When he was 14, he had a learner's permit, but his parents got him a Mercedes-Benz G-Class. Every day, he drove it to school and was determined to park it in the parking lot but show it off. However, he only had a learner's permit. So he had his housekeeper drive to school with him, and her son drove a car behind her to take her back home, which was only about 2 miles away from the school. Even if you're in a G-Wagon, bro, I feel like this is more embarrassing than it is a flex. Sure, there's a $100,000 car in, like, the parking lot that's yours. That being said, dude, your, like, nanny drops you off, your housekeeper drops you off and then goes back home for you to park there. I feel like everybody at this school should be making fun of this, and if they're not, dude, he literally has his housekeeper drive him to school because he wants it parked in the parking lot so bad. Having a housekeeper is already pretty spoiled, you know, making them drive you around like a chauffeur, next level. I know a couple who couldn't have children. They finally got approved for adoption when they were older and got their first kid in their mid to late 50s. They were just so happy with having a kid that they spoiled him rotten. Anything he wanted, they gave him. He grew up demanding things and throwing tantrums, and they let him eat what he wanted so he ballooned in size. Eventually, he dropped out of school because he didn't want to go, and his parents were fine with this until the state told him they weren't allowed to, so they got his butt back into school where he failed miserably because he didn't care. He was eating away at all of their savings, and he would randomly pick up new hobbies and needed top-of-the-line things for each one, which he would give up after a few months. And his parents received an inheritance, and he ended up blowing through that entire amount within a couple of months, spending it on stupid stuff. Eventually, his mom passed, and his elderly dad is having to work 2 full-time jobs, while his son in his 20s does nothing all day except drive around in his car, live streaming himself talking while driving. And he's already had 2 accidents from filming himself while driving. His extended family tried to have a family meeting with the dad, telling him he's got to put his foot down because his son's going to kill someone. And when the dad finally had attack with the son attacked him and knocked him down the stairs. He didn't want to press charges after he got well again, and he went back to working his 2 jobs and became an alcoholic during non-work hours, letting his son run all over him because he's terrified of saying no. And the worst part is, the dad spent his entire retirement fund on the kids, so he's gonna have to work until he dies because he has a parasitic son who refuses to do anything except spend, spend, spend. Normally, these are a little bit funny, dude. This one just made me sad. Imagine draining your, like, 70-year-old dad's retirement account because you refuse to get a job while you're live streaming yourself crashing cars multiple times. Live streaming one accident is already embarrassing enough. If you don't learn your lesson after one and go back for round 2, you might just be too dumb to have a license. You might want to take that back away. And you'll save a crap ton on car insurance, too. I knew a rich kid whose parents bought a car for him and he treated it like garbage, purposely driving it really hard and generally abusing it, confident in the notion that his parents would buy him the one he wanted after he destroyed the one they got him. Well, they didn't buy him another one, ever. He rode the city bus and bummed rides off of his friends after that, and he was the most entitled person I'd ever met. If he was over at your house, he would just help himself to whatever was in the fridge like it was some sort of paid buffet. I just love this logic. Alright, my parents bought me a car. It's not a very nice car. Alright, don't take this the wrong way, bro, but if they buy you a car, they're already being way nicer. And if they bought you a car that's not nice, it probably means that they can't afford to buy you a Mercedes. So why would you destroy the car you got for free? I just don't understand, dude. A free car is a free car, even if you personally don't like it. There's this magical thing called, go get a job and buy it yourself then, dude. It's incredible. Wow, my goodness. I saw Justin Bieber throwing a fit and end up not getting what he wanted. We have a quarterly team building exercise at my company where you basically go and play mini golf or some other activity capped at $25 a person. Sometime between 2009 and 2011, I really can't remember exactly, my group just decided to go for a fancy lunch in downtown Portland. After lunch, we took one of our coworkers to the semi-famous Nike store, which was a couple blocks away, and that was the day Justin Bieber happened to show up. When he and his entourage arrived, he said something loudly along the lines of, y'all are gonna have to leave for a bit because I'm here to do some shopping. And some of his people acted like they were going to try to politely force the already present customers out of the store so he could shop alone. But the Nike employees even more politely told him it's not possible, and at one point he lost it. I mean, threw a total temper tantrum because they wouldn't shut down the store for him. The tantrum didn't work, but he and his folks left in a huff. That's really my only celebrity in the wild encounter, and it's freaking lame. Okay, so Justin Bieber really doesn't go wild like this anymore, but does anyone else remember that period where he was just like a menace for a couple months? Just like speeding in his Ferrari down the neighborhood, you know, apparently getting really mad at Nike stores. He chilled out after that, but like honestly, dude, the idea of angry Justin Bieber before he was growing up, like, dude, get out of the Nike store, dude, I made baby, do you have any idea who I am, bro? Kinda brings a smile to my face. Saw a college guy with a ridiculously expensive car rear-end a woman who drove a beater. Her car was totaled and his wasn't looking that hot either. Then he got out and started screaming at this woman. She was in tears and he kept telling her that she was gonna pay for this. And when the cops came, I saw each of them give their statement, and after that, me and 10 people came forward and gave our witness statements. It sounded like each and every one of us put complete fault on him, which was the truth. And when the cops went back to him, I saw his face just sink. He probably told them it was her fault and just found out that 2 handfuls of people just confirmed that he's full of it. I've never ever seen that many witnesses stick around for a simple traffic accident, and I think the other people felt the same way I did. The kid was a douche and needed to be punished for what he did. There's like being a jerk, you know, and acting all entitled because your dad's rich, and then there's trying to blame an accident in which you're at fault on somebody else who's clearly in a worse situation, bro. The rules are if you rear-end somebody, it's your fault. Even if they slammed on the brakes, it just kinda is what it is. The fact that you're hopping out the car screaming at her, making her cry because you rear-ended her just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. One of my college roommates was very rich growing up, and I didn't realize just how rich until I had to explain to her what a coupon was in very extensive detail. On multiple occasions, she bragged that she wasn't even interested in her major or college in general, but she was at uni because her parents were requiring her to get a degree, any degree, in order to get her trust fund. I don't remember ever seeing her go to class, and she eventually got expelled sophomore year over academic dishonesty. I guess this was the last straw for her parents because they cut her off soon after that. It actually did end up being a wake-up call, and she somehow managed to get a public health degree at a different school in spite of the academic dishonesty listed on her transcript. She's doing pretty well for herself these days, and we've kept in touch, and last we talked she was considering grad school. Kudos to them for getting their crap together, but that being said, dude, imagine somebody not understanding a coupon. So this slip, this magical paper, I hand it to the cash registrar, and it gives me discount? My goodness, why does not everyone use these coupons when shopping? You know when Thor has the cup of coffee and then like throws it on the ground and destroys it? That's this lady's reaction to a coupon. She just pulls out a flamethrower and starts to burn them all when she's done. Local business owner puts son through college and more. And when the kid graduates with multiple degrees, dad decides to retire and turn the business over to his son. The son brings all of his college homies on board, has management wear all white cowboy hats and drive white pickups, and begins revamping the business. Dad comes out of retirement pronto, gets rid of his son and his friends, and years later ends up bankrolling the son's run for state representative. The son lost, the dad died, and left his business to his daughter. I love the idea of this dude. This kid got multiple degrees from multiple schools. You know, you think that would come with maybe a modicum of knowledge about how to run a business. He gets in charge of it all and he's like, all right, here's how we boost sales. We all wear cowboy hats and drive matching trucks. What is going on here, dude? This sounds like something an NFL team would do during playoffs to like get more bonded so that way they can go to the Super Bowl, not a way you sell more of whatever it was. I love the dad giving the business to the daughter too, bro. Maybe that should have been the plan from day one. The second your son was like, we can sell more with cowboy hats, it should have been done. Imagine being the guy that like actually got suckered into buying from him. Well, I wouldn't have spent all this money, but your hat matches your truck, so I'll get the checkbook. Here's a switch. Highly successful local doctor and politician expected his son to attend medical school and become a doctor. The son opted out and got a job with a new company called Costco pumping gas. He'd been with the company ever since, just as regular pay raises and bonus checks give him a good life, and he just didn't want the high stress that him and his dad had. Honestly, good for this dude, bro. Oh, that looks super stressful. No thanks, I'm just gonna go have a good life and enjoy it. Nothing wrong with that, dude. This should be a goal of more people, to just enjoy life and not be stressing the entire time. I know a guy who purchased a second car. His first car is a Mustang, his second is an Audi. He's a single father and his payment arrangement is $400 per month and he didn't try to talk it down. The car is 10 years old and his other car isn't paid off. He works on my team in the same position I have, and my wife together can barely afford a $250 per month car payment. He hasn't learned to drive a stick and it's been 3 years. He's been doing all of this and struggling for 3 years for a lawn ornament. You gotta have loaded parents if you're just buying a car that you don't even know how to drive to park in the driveway. You know, it looks really pretty, but you can't drive it. Okay, and it's not like I'm the one paying for it. Mom and dad got this entire thing covered. It's a pretty sweet system. Get rich parents. I work as a freelance musician and often stand in for wedding bands, and I've worked a lot of weddings where clearly the families have crazy money. One thing I always see at the fancier events without fail is a ton of amazing, fully prepared food and expensive drinks being tipped or thrown away at the end of the night. When I asked about it once, I was told by one of the staff that a lot of catering companies are trained to prepare to have enough of every menu option so that if everyone orders the same thing, they have enough. What happens in reality is they tip away enough food to feed the wedding party or, you know, everyone else involved 2 times over and throw it away. Particularly annoying when the band are served cold chips as their evening meal because we couldn't stretch the budget. Sorry. On a more positive note, one of the funniest things I've ever seen was a drummer successfully sneak out of a catering tent having liberated a whole wheel of cheese that night. Imagine being so loaded that you're like, nah, just make enough food so that if everyone orders the same thing, we still got enough. I know we're gonna waste a lot of it, but whatever, I'll just pay for it. It seems like a waste, dude. I don't care what anyone says. Spending like 80 grand on one night is just dumb. I don't get it. I don't understand. Anyways, guys, I think that's gonna do it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you like these type of videos, go ahead and comment down below. It helps the video do better, and I would very much appreciate it. And of course, like, comment, subscribe, please. If you like videos like this, turn on notifications. I'm going to be trying to post more on this channel. I've been enjoying it. You know, no promises, but maybe more double uploads. If you really want to help me out, I'll put a link to the intro song down below, along with a link to my podcast, The Scuffed Cast, or, of course, you could use code SCRUBBY at the G Fuel checkout to get a discount on G Fuel. Help me out at the same time. And the last link down there is a link to the merch store, so go get yourself a t-shirt. And, yeah, on that note, guys, that'll do it. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace. Alright, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. And as you can tell from the title, today I've got a banger. Basically, this dude's stepmom ended up destroying his PS5 to, like, piss him off / teach him a lesson. And as soon as I saw this was sent in to me, I knew that I had to share it with you guys. It's got drama, it's got suspense, and dare I say it, a little bit of comedy, so it should be a pretty fun story time for y'all. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so the person who sent this to me, their parents were split up, and the way that they had worked out the arrangement was that he would go to his mom's for a week and then his dad's for a week. And so obviously when you're spending a week at a place and then a week at a different place, you want to bring most of your stuff with you, especially when it's your parents' house. He didn't have any gaming consoles at his dad, but his mom had bought him a PS5, so whenever he would go to his dad's house, he would bring it with him. He had a TV in his room, he had controllers at his dad's house, so it just kind of worked out. But his mom hated the fact that he would bring over his PS5 because her kids didn't have a PS5 and he didn't like to share with them. They said that it wasn't fair that he got to play a newer console than them, and it wasn't fair that he got a PS5 and they didn't. And obviously, the subscriber is like, okay, well, life's not fair sometimes. I don't know what you want me to tell you. You guys don't take care of your things, so I'm not going to let you play my PS5. And you guys have game consoles, you just don't have this one, which is not my problem, like, play what you have. And to make it even more weird, dude, his step-siblings were older than him, which means they should have been more mature. I understand that age doesn't, like, automatically equal maturity, but imagine yelling at your little sibling that it's unfair that they're not sharing the PS5 with you. Like, it would just be kind of cringe. They were old enough to go get a job if they really wanted a PS5, but they would rather just complain about it. But they were complaining so much that his stepmom tried to put a ban on him bringing his PlayStation 5. She pulled him aside before he went to his mom's and was kind of like, you're not allowed to bring that over anymore. I talked to your dad about it and he agrees. And the subscriber didn't believe her, so he said, well, I'll just check with my dad and make sure. And all of a sudden, his stepmom started being like, no, you don't need to check with your dad. You don't have to do that. Obviously raising up the red flags and being like, oh, I should check with my dad for sure. Before, kind of on the fence. As soon as you say I don't have to, I do. So he goes to his dad, and sure enough, his dad has no clue what his stepmom's talking about, and they start arguing, and she's like, it's unfair that your son has better things than my kids. And his dad backs him up and is like, well, it's not his fault his mom bought him a PlayStation 5. He doesn't have a gaming console here. I'm not going to ban my kid from bringing over what he wants to bring over to my house. Tell your kids to deal with it. And she was like, this is so unfair. He shouldn't be allowed to bring it. Obviously being insanely dramatic. But eventually he goes to his mom's house and he doesn't really tell his mom about the situation. His mom already didn't like his stepmom and he just didn't want to make things more awkward or more dramatic. But he was pretty pissed off about it, and the entire time he's like, I'm bringing my PS5 back, that entire week. It wasn't something he was thinking about all the time, but he was for sure going to bring it back over. So a week at his mom's house passes, and during that week, his dad had sent him a text, like, apologizing for the situation, saying he was good to bring it over, they had talked about it, so he thinks it's all good. So he packs up his stuff, goes over to his dad's house, sets up the PS5, and as he's setting it up, his stepmom comes and stands in the doorway and starts going off on this like tangent about how if he valued the relationship with his step siblings and her, then he wouldn't keep setting that up, and he was really driving a wedge into this family and he was tearing them apart. Which, listen, this kid is not tearing your family apart. Your really bizarre hatred for his gaming console is tearing you guys apart. Like, if it's really this big of an issue, then couldn't he just hit you with the reverse Uno card and say, buy your kids a PS5, you're the one tearing this family apart? That would be unfair, right? Because, like, just get over it. It's not this kid's fault. He's not tearing the family apart and driving a wedge into the family for wanting to have something that's his. But he's just ignoring her, and soon his step-siblings show up beside her, and it's starting to feel like Cinderella, but for gamers. They're all like, we're going to get a PS5, or we're gonna get you in trouble so your dad takes it away. Just kind of weird, vague threats, because apparently he was destroying the family. And then his stepmom walked away, but his step-siblings were still there, and they were saying that, like, oh, we like it so much better without you, we don't like when you're here. And at that point, the subscriber's pissed off, and he turned around, and he's like, well, guess what? I'm not here to hang out with you guys. I'm here to hang out with my dad. So as much as it pains me to hear that you guys don't like me, I'll be able to sleep just fine at night, like a little baby. Like a little baby with a binky full of NyQuil. Probably bad for the baby, but it would sleep well. And he closes the door on their faces, which, I mean, best move to make. I'm not gonna lie, it probably felt pretty good. And he just starts playing his game, waiting for his dad to get home from work. And his dad comes home, comes up to his room, they talk for a little bit, and they hear that dinner's ready, so they start going down to eat dinner. And before they even sit down at the dinner table, his stepmom goes, so are you aware of the fact that your son decided to bring over his PS5 when he came today? And his dad is like, yes, I did. I did indeed know that he brought his PS5 over today because I told him that he could. And his stepmom, like, slams her fork down and just starts staring daggers at the entire table, like each of them. and it says something about how family units need to be about cohesion and they can't be a family unit if people are going behind other people's back. And his dad decides to argue back, which, listen, just don't argue at the dinner table, period. It's awkward. Nobody wants to see it. But his dad's like, oh, family units shouldn't go behind each other's back. Like when you pretended that I gave you permission to ban my kid from bringing his gaming console to my house. And obviously, this is very, very awkward for all the kids that are sitting there. So the subscriber gets up and says, I'm going to go eat in my room because I don't really want to be here. And I really don't want to be here for this argument. I'm good. I know you guys feel like this is my fault, so I'm just going to dip. I don't want to be here. So he goes to his room to eat, and as he's leaving, his dad's like, it's not your fault, but he gets to his room and he hears yelling downstairs. And his stepmom is yelling loud enough. I don't know if it was on purpose or not, and neither does he, about how that gaming console is going to destroy the family. And obviously he feels bad about it. Like, even though it's not true, it's obviously crap. There's no way that this PS5 is single-handedly going to tear apart the family like an episode of Maury or Jerry Springer. It would feel bad to hear people that are supposed to be your family screaming about how you are single-handedly responsible for tearing the family apart. Either way, his dad was standing up for him, and his dad's response to that was that she was going to destroy the family before the console ever could. And then she screamed something about how she was actually going to destroy the console before it could have the chance to destroy her family. Very dramatic and over the top, kind of out of a soap opera. That console's going to tear our family apart, but that's why I'm going to destroy it. Either way, he hears them coming upstairs still yelling, and his stepmom bursts into his room and she says, "Where's the PlayStation?" As if he had moved it earlier, and he says like nothing, but he looks at his desk. So she runs over to the desk and she starts punching the PlayStation, like hammer fisting it. You know, when someone's banging their fist on the table, that type of vibe. But she's just pounding on the PlayStation. And he gets up and starts yelling at her like, stop it, stop it. His dad comes in and is like, stop trying to break the PlayStation. And she's not doing a whole lot of damage because she's just punching it. Like, it's not good for it, but it's not like it's breaking. And after 10, 15 punches, her hand is probably more hurt than the PlayStation. So she runs out of there and runs downstairs, but his dad's still in his room, and he's like, what is going on, to his dad? And his dad says he doesn't know, and he's really embarrassed, and he's sorry. And his dad says, I'll leave you alone. So he leaves his room and closes the door. And he thinks that's the end of it, okay? His stepmom has come in and hammer-fisted his PS5. His dad is like, I don't know what's happening. So that should be the end. But about a minute later, he hears a knock on the door. And he thinks, well, if it was my stepmom, she wouldn't knock. She would probably just barge in. So it's my dad. So he walks over and opens the door, which was a huge mistake because it is his stepmom. And as soon as the door is open an inch, she kind of shoves it the rest of the way open, and she walks in, and now she has a rubber mallet from the garage, and she grabs the PlayStation and just rips it off the desk. Cords coming out the back, one of the monitors falls over, and he's screaming at her like, stop, what are you doing? Stop, stop. He wasn't thrilled before, but now he's really not thrilled because, all right, eventually you would break a PS5 by repeatedly punching it. It's gonna take a while. A rubber mallet? Okay, that's gonna be a pretty quick job. Whack, whack, and done. No more video games. But she's just going off about how she's not gonna let this console tear her family apart. And she puts it on the ground and she takes a swing with the rubber mallet, and by the grace of Grayskull, it misses and smacks into the carpet. And his dad comes into the room and is like, please don't do this, that's expensive, it's not ours, we didn't pay for it, it's his, don't break it. And she's like, no, I'm going to destroy it, I don't care what you guys say. And so to add to the dramatics, she picks it up and storms past them and starts going down the stairs. And now they're following her, but they're treating it like a hostage rescue situation. They don't want to do anything that's going to make her start smacking it with the hammer. So they're like trying to talk her down. Listen, you don't want to destroy the PS5, all right? That's not something you want to do. It's not going to be good for the relationship. It's not going to be good for the stepkids. No one benefits by destroying this, but she's just seeing red at that point, just psychotic. I don't care what you guys say, I need to get rid of this, it's tearing our family apart. Which it just wasn't. I think freaking out about it is what was tearing the family apart. because a PS5 can't do anything. Like, if you left a PS5 in a room with a family not plugged in, you wouldn't come back 2 hours later to them fighting each other, trying to beat each other to death with pancakes. No, nothing would happen. It takes something to freak out about it for it to become an issue. But she starts to walk a little bit faster to the garage, and the door slams. They open up the garage door, and now it's on the concrete floor of the garage, and she has the rubber mallet above her head, like looking like Thor, ready to bring the hammer down and strike lightning into all enemies in a vicinity. An area of effect attack is about to go down with how hard she's going to swing this hammer. And all the dad and the subscriber are able to get out before she swings down the hammer is like, don't do it. And then the stepmom special, bro. She brought that hammer down. Stop. Hammer time, you know? MC Hammer himself would have been proud. And of course, there's just a crunch sound as the hammer smacks into it. Not a very pleasant sound to hear, and the subscriber just starts screaming like, what's wrong with you, you idiot? Why would you do that? But he runs over and grabs it and goes back inside to his room, and he hears them arguing, but he doesn't care, and he plugs it in and he tries to turn it on, and like the button turns on the light, but nothing comes on the TV. So something is broken, and at that point, he's just pissed. He's seeing red, and he's like, I'm not gonna stay here. I can't blame him if what was basically his prized possession gets destroyed. I can understand not wanting to stay in the house with the person that destroyed your most prized possession. So he calls his mom, and his mom doesn't even know what's going on because he's just kind of like yelling into the phone. She broke my PlayStation. I need you to come get me. She broke my PlayStation. I'm pissed. This is stupid. I hate it here. And his mom's like, all right, I'm on my way. So she comes, and when she's outside, he starts getting ready to like grab his stuff and go out to the car. And so he makes a break from his room to the front door, but as he's going to the front door, his stepmom sees him and is like, where are you going? And he says, I'm going to my mom's. And she starts freaking out, literally runs over to him, hands and knees begging, please don't go, please don't do that, your dad's gonna kill me, I'm sorry I broke your PlayStation, just stay, we can talk it out. And he's like, no, there's nothing to talk out, like the time for talking it out is done, we should have talked it out before you decided to destroy my PlayStation. I'm not leaving because of the PlayStation. I'm leaving because clearly I'm not welcome here. Your kids said it, you said it, and you're destroying my things. Like, I don't want to be here anymore, and I'm not going to stay. And his stepmom, once again, just like, please stay, don't, your dad's gonna be pissed. Yeah, probably. I mean, I don't have a kid or a wife or an ex-wife. That being said, if like I did have a kid and then for whatever reason I was married to his stepmom and she just started breaking his things and saying he wasn't welcome, I'd be pissed. I'd be flabbergasted. Maybe it's good he will be mad. You had beef with a video game console and took it out by smashing like a 15-year-old's game console. That's what happened. You got mad at an inanimate object that didn't belong to you. It's the equivalent of stealing candy from a baby, basically. Like, what was this kid supposed to do? You're his stepmom. If you say, like, give me the console or you're grounded, like, he doesn't really have much recourse. When you run into his room with a rubber mallet and grab his console, what, do you expect him to jump in front of you? Oh, don't worry. I'll confront the crazy woman swinging around a mallet destroying things. That always ends extremely well. But he leaves, the begging doesn't work, and he gets in his mom's car and tells her everything, and obviously she's pissed. She had been the one to get the PlayStation, and she had worked really hard to get it. She had to track it down. You know, they're not fantastically easy to get. So she's pissed, and then she's even more pissed because it's like, listen, you need to feel comfortable at your dad's house. If she's gonna treat you like that and say that you're not welcome and your step-siblings are gonna treat you like that, I don't like that, because I want you to feel safe and welcome. It's his mom. His mom's gonna be protective. That's what moms do. You know, they call it mama bear mode for a reason. It's not because a mama bear sees her baby bear being messed with and just like calms down. Excuse me, I'm gonna politely ask you to put down the baby bear. Thank you. No, it's like, whoa! So she's pissed and she sends his dad a text being like, you need to replace the PS5 by Monday. And on top of that, we better have a plan in place for how my kid's gonna feel welcome at your house, because your wife is apparently shaming him and his step-siblings are saying that they hate when he's there. So you need to figure that out. And his dad replies and is like, we'll figure it out. I'm so sorry. I didn't want for any of this to happen. And even the kid backs up his dad. He's like, listen, my stepmom's crazy. There's no denying that. He did not pick the best stepmom in the universe. That being said, he did defend me and he told her not to smash it. Like, it wasn't like he encouraged the rubber mallet behavior. Hit it harder, yeah. And his mom's like, yeah, I don't care. They just have to replace it. And so that weekend, he's just kind of chilling, not playing video games because PS5 smash. And he gets a text from his dad and his stepmom. And the two texts are written very differently and kind of shows that there's a big disconnect going on. Because his stepmom is basically like, I will not be blackmailed into buying you another PlayStation. It was your behavior and your antics that caused me to get so angry and destroyed in the first place. Obviously didn't learn her lesson. Like, I feel like there's a very early lesson you learn, usually in first grade, don't break other people's things. She just didn't learn that and just doubled down on the behavior. Like, he left. Your husband's mad at you because you smashed his son's things. So you're gonna double down and say it was his fault that you broke his stuff. He was like chilling in his room with the door closed and you went in with a rubber mallet and grabbed it and destroyed it. How is that his fault at all? But basically just kind of blaming him, saying they weren't going to be buying him a console. And his dad sent him a text very apologetically saying he's sorry for all this happening. And he's trying to track down a PS5, but they're out of stock everywhere. He was driving from store to store looking, which is sweet, all right? The dad driving from store to store to try to find it is a nice gesture. That being said, good luck, man. What are the odds this dad just stumbles upon a PS5 in stock out there in the wild? They've been almost impossible to find in store for years. I would have been pissed if that's how this all came together, is like, oh, happy ending. He found a PS5 in Walmart. Not because the person who sent this to me doesn't deserve a PS5, but I made a promise to myself I would not pay resale for a console, and I still have not found one. Sure, I could go on StockX and pay some dude who has a bunch of them, but that's not the point. That's not the point. He appreciated his dad looking, but by the time that his dad did find one, his mom had gotten him another one, which, swagtastic mom. She said, PS5 1, I got you. PS5 2, I got you. I guess his mom probably did feel bad. I mean, you buy your kid something and through no fault of his own, his stepmom breaks it. You might be like, all right, I'll buy you another one because that's kind of out of your control. But the benefit is his dad did find one, so he did get a PS5 at his dad's house. And to make it even better, his siblings couldn't play it even when he was gone. Like, he said, no, you can't go into my room and play the PlayStation 5. And they didn't get one, which means they could have had a PS5 that they were allowed to play when he wasn't there if they would have been cool. But because his stepmom broke that PS5, they had to spend the money on a replacement PS5 for him, which could have been their PS5 money. So they basically chopped off their own leg. And that's some sweet irony. Them just having to hang out knowing there's a fully functional PS5 in their step-sibling's room that they're not allowed to touch or use. Sweet, sweet, sweet goodness. Him and his stepmom still have a very, very tense relationship. She thinks it was wrong of them to buy him the PS5, which, like, we get it, you're mad, but maybe you shouldn't break things if you don't want to replace them. If it wasn't your stepkid, it wouldn't even be an option. Like, the only reason you can even try to say you don't want to pay is because it's the kid. If it was any other situation, you would have been forced to replace it anyways. Like, you can't just crash into somebody's car and total it and then be like, nah, you're on your own. You're either going to get a lawsuit or your insurance company's going to cover it. There's no other thing where I feel like you can break someone else's property and not pay for it. And if you are going to do that, then my goodness, I'm just not trying to hang out. Either way, rest in peace, PS5. Big old sad face, but I thought you guys would enjoy the story time. That'll do it for the video, though. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, I'd give a huge, huge appreciation to anyone that takes a second to press the like button and comment down below. If you made it this far into the video, just go ahead and comment the word psycho in the comment section. It helps the video do better, and I would appreciate it. And we're on the daily upload grind, all right? I'm back to daily. The least you could do is give me a comment for the daily uploads. It's the least you could do. And if you're new, subscribe. Please, just turn on the notifications too. I know that was asking a lot, but other than that, if you like these story times, you want to listen offline without gameplay, whatever floats your boat, I post them on Spotify, link down below, along with a link to a playlist I made of some of my favorite story times for the year if you want something to listen to or watch. But yeah, on that note, that'll officially do it. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and hopefully I'll see each and every single one of you guys tomorrow. I'm out. Peace. Alright, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. And today I've got a story from back in the day when I used to play a lot of Call of Duty that was very funny. This dude's dad hopped on the mic and ended up roasting him in front of everybody. It's not the longest story in the universe, but it is pretty entertaining, so I figured you guys would enjoy it. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so back in the day, it wasn't normal to be able to have a party chat with your friends all the time when you were playing video games. I don't necessarily know if it was this way on PC, but I know for sure on console. In Call of Duty, for the longest time, there were certain game modes where it would force you into game chat. And for the most part, it wasn't that bad just because the game mode forced you into game chat. Everybody was already there and people would just kind of be chill. Every now and then, it would absolutely pop off, though. People would just be saying the most insane things you've ever heard, dude. I've heard people say that they've done things to people's mothers that I don't even want to imagine. But sometimes it would get crazy and people would start talking trash. And one day, me and my friends pop into a search and destroy lobby on Modern Warfare 2, and we get the prompt to go to game chat, and obviously we click yes because we don't want to get kicked from the game. In the second that our audio switches over to game chat, there's this kid just screaming into the microphone at everyone else on our team. And it was me and two friends, and there's 6 people on a team, so 2 like other people, and then this kid who's screaming. And the kid is just kind of yelling incoherently about how everyone on this team sucks and they're garbage, and he's gonna have to backpack us because clearly we have the gaming skills of Stevie Wonder. And I'm confused because the game hasn't even started at this point. We're still in that part where it's like counting down before the match starts. And one of the other people on our team, not anyone that I'm queued up with, says something back about like, can you please shut up? I'm going to try to play, but I'm not going to be able to play well if I have you, a screaming banshee, in my ear for the next 20 minutes. Which is pretty fair. You're screaming that they're garbage, they're allowed to roast you back and say you have an ugly voice, you know? Every now and then, someone's going to think your voice is ugly. It is what it is, baby. But that sets this kid off, and he starts screaming even louder now. Like, he was yelling before. He was definitely talking loudly, but now he's screaming into his mic. You know, old school microphones weren't that great. Even new mics will do this, but back in the day, if you were to yell into a mic too loud, it would start peaking. And his mic is peaking over and over again as he's yelling about how we shouldn't talk trash back to him. He's better than us anyways. If we want to talk trash to somebody, we should pull up our combat record and show him our kill-death ratio, which we are playing Call of Duty, but oh my goodness, has to be one of the cringiest things I've ever heard screamed at me. What's your kill-death ratio in Call of Duty? Probably better than yours, but even if it's not, I don't really understand why any of this matters. I'm not gonna be able to focus while you scream in my ear. Screaming kid? Well, what's your kill-death ratio? Well, it's not gonna be better if you're yelling in my ear, that's for sure, even if I am dookie garbage. But as this dude is screaming into his mic, full volume, just absolutely cranked to the nines, you hear something in the background of his microphone, and then you hear him go, "I'm sorry." And then there's a different voice on the microphone. This one's a lot deeper, obviously someone who's a lot older, and it's just like, what are you doing? Why are you screaming like that? Are you crazy? I'm on a conference call downstairs, and everybody on the conference call is hearing you screaming at the Xbox. What is wrong with you? Why are you yelling like that? And then this kid, who had been Mr. Tough Guy for the entire game so far, you know, telling everyone that they're garbage, telling everyone that they suck, he's the greatest of all time, instantly becomes just like the biggest baby you could have possibly ever envisioned. I'm so sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it. And the dad is like not being insanely mean, but just kind of saying things in a way where you know he's telling the truth. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, he's not insulting his kid. He's just kind of asking him questions that his son doesn't have the answer to. And so he asks him, why do you have to do this every day? Every day I have to come in here and tell you to stop screaming at the Xbox. You do realize it's not that deep. Like, you don't have to yell at the game. It's not gonna make you any better. You wonder why your mother and I don't want to put more money into your gaming setup, get you great headphones, anything like that. It's because you're already screaming when you're wearing an earphone with one ear on. I can't imagine if you couldn't hear yourself with 2. And now the entire game chat is laughing at him too. We were already kind of laughing at him when he was just screaming because it wasn't very intimidating. He was just yelling so loud and so angrily compared to everybody else that it was entertaining. But now it's really hilarious, alright? You don't know pure joy until someone's talking trash to you in a video video game and their dad walks in the room and starts flaming them. Obviously, it's going to be some of the most entertaining things you've ever seen because little McRageface is getting his comeuppance, and on top of it, if he ever tries to talk trash again for the rest of the game, then like you have the best comeback of all time. Shut up, your own dad doesn't even like you. I mean, it's a built-in roast. And when the dad says that this is why they don't buy him a headset or whatever, because he just is always screaming, they don't know how much he would scream if he had both ears covered, which is a pretty fair point in my opinion. I could also just be wrong and an idiot. The kid, who, keep in mind, is just some random dude on Xbox, still in the game by the way, and still moving around, he's still gaming, decides that that's enough. He's gonna have to argue back with his dad and teach him a lesson. So he starts yelling at his dad, saying that he would be able to play way better if he had a headset on, which I don't know why he thought that was the sell his dad needed. You know, his dad's in here screaming at him because he yells too much at Xbox and his parents apparently hate how much he plays it. Him, well, you know I'd be a lot better at it if I got a headset. Well, I'm sure you would be better, but I don't think your parents really care about your kill-death ratio. You might be using it against everyone else in an argument. What's your KD? But I don't think your parents care. Could you imagine at dinner that night he has a meeting? Mom, Dad, I feel like I should be able to drop out of school and do nothing but play Call of Duty. Hear me out. I have a 1.8 kill-death ratio. Sure, this does not put me in the top 5%, but it can be improved. With a structured practice system where I'm able to play Call of Duty for up to 19 hours a day, I could get way better. Regardless, their argument keeps going and everyone in the game chat is just getting a front row seat to this family dysfunction. It's like watching a Jerry Springer episode. They're yelling back and forth. The dad keeps being like, why do you feel like video games are more important than your family? And the kid's still playing. You would think at this point he'd at least put the controller down, have the conversation, I don't know, turn off the Xbox. But they argue for a good 5 minutes while this kid is still playing COD. He's not playing very well, but homie said, I have to support the team, Dad. The tactics, you don't understand. Without me, we're screwed. Your dad's like, you're tearing this family apart. Okay, Dad, yeah, shut up, okay? You don't understand. This round's about to be over, all right? I'll deal with you in a second. And finally, the dad sounded like he had enough of this kid playing video games while he was trying to talk to him, because he's like, turn off the Xbox. We need to have this conversation. Like, this is important. You can't keep avoiding it. And the kid's like, no, I'm not going to turn it off. I'm in the middle of the game. And the dad's like, you need to turn off that Xbox. Otherwise, I'm going to take it away and you're not going to get it back. And he starts rattling off about how he knows the Constitution and the Constitution protects his property, which I guess he probably was just having the Constitution unit in school and thought that the Bill of Rights was just any rights you wanted it to have. No, Dad, you don't understand. The 67th Amendment says that you're not allowed to take away my Xbox. Benjamin Franklin was a very forward-thinking man. When he was sitting there in 1776, he said one day they're going to have game systems and we can't let parents take that away. And the dad had had enough, and the next thing they hear is just like, no, and then poof, player has left the game. And usually the only way that happens is if your internet gets shut off. So the dad either went and gave the router the good old Jack and Jill, kicked it down the hill, or he turned off the Xbox, either of which are hilarious, man. This guy's having an argument with his dad mid-Call of Duty fight. The dad, well, let's put it into hard mode. Xbox off. All of a sudden, your KD doesn't really matter, does it? Listen, I love video games as much as the next guy. Hell, I even love Call of Duty. And I do care about my KD. That being said, to use it in an argument, especially with, like, your parents, is insanely cringe. Imagine you accidentally cut someone off in traffic, they start yelling at you, you roll down your window. Hey, buddy, okay? I don't think you know who I am. I'm really good at Call of Duty. You don't want to mess with someone like me, okay? The rest of the team was cracking up, though. Even though they were a player down, it didn't really matter because they were all laughing so hard anyways that they couldn't really focus. They ended up getting slaughtered, but it was well worth it just because of how much the guy had, like, destroyed himself on Xbox, man. Listen, if your parents ever walk in the room and start arguing with you when you're in the Discord call, when you're in the CSGO game, when you're in the COD match, the one piece of advice I have, it's very simple. Mute the microphone. It's never gonna end well if you're displaying an argument with your parents on Xbox, especially if you lose the argument. And after you were talking trash, it's just like a triple layer cringe burger. The McTriple, if you will. No, you don't understand, Dad. I'm showing these losers who's boss. Oh, you're gonna call them a loser? Why are you still unemployed? Dad, stop saying that. They're listening right now. They weren't trying to be too mean, but what they did do is they went into their recent players list and found the kid's gamer tag and all sent him a message saying that if they could pass along that they were thankful for his dad dad, they would appreciate it. I didn't send the message. I was too lazy. Typing up a message on Xbox with the analog stick took too long. He never replied, but that's just that extra level of petty. When he does get back on the Xbox, probably in like 6 years because he's been grounded from it forever, he's gonna open the messages. All these old memories. A stroll down memory lane, if you will. Goes to the messages. Your dad is awesome. He just like starts screaming at the air, shaking his fist. No matter how far I run, I never will escape the day that my dad destroyed me in an Xbox Live game chat. If your parents roast you in a game chat, you just have to leave. It's the rules, all right? I didn't make the rule book. I just have it in front of me. Subsection 4, paragraph B. If your mom and dad embarrass you in front of a game chat, you should probably leave the game. It's just written down. Anyways, guys, that'll do it for the video. I know this was a short one. I thought y'all would find it entertaining. Hopefully you did. If you did, I'd really appreciate y'all taking a second to press the like button and comment down below. If you don't know what to comment, just go ahead and comment the word Xbox. It helps the video hit recommended. And if you don't comment Xbox, no joke, no scam, your dad will flame you next time you're in an online game, so don't take chances. Protect yourself. Other than that, if you really want to help me out, subscribe, turn on notifications. I post really often. And I do post the audio versions of these on Spotify, so if you ever want to listen without gameplay, offline, whatever floats your boat, a link to that's in the description, along with a link to a playlist I made of all my favorite stories from the year so far. So if you want to check that out, need something to listen to while you play video games, do your homework, whatever, a link to that can be found in the description as well. But on that note, guys, that'll really do it. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video. Today we're going to be talking about this couple that is being accused of money laundering. You know, this is all still alleged, but apparently they have a little over $3.6 billion in crypto assets that they're not supposed to have. Just a quick little $4 billion fraud to start the morning. You know how it is when you got to do your morning run. Like I said, all this is still alleged, but I figured we should talk about it, so let's get into it. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, obviously every now and then on this channel we've got to go ahead and cover the crypto scheme of the week, whether it's NFTs. There's always something to be talking about, and honestly, I was kind of flabbergasted by just the sheer scale of this when I read the headline. New York couple charged with conspiring to launder crypto billions. You know, usually when somebody like steals $2 million, it's national news. If somebody were to like rob an armored truck, you would probably hear about it. That being said, these people hacked a crypto exchange and ended up with $3.6 billion. They didn't hack the crypto exchange recently. They had taken millions of dollars in crypto like a while ago, allegedly. You know, they haven't proved it yet. They haven't been confirmed to be guilty, but allegedly they're involved with hacking an exchange in 2016, and just the value of the crypto since then has gone bonkers, leading to this $3.6 billion amount. I don't think they were really out there intending to ever yeet $3.6 billion if they did do it. A New York couple were arrested Tuesday on charges of conspiring to launder billions of dollars in cryptocurrency that was stolen in a 2016 hack of a virtual currency exchange, the Justice Department said. Besides the arrest, federal law enforcement officials also revealed it had seized $3.6 billion in cryptocurrency linked to the hack of Bitfinex, a virtual exchange whose system were breached nearly 6 years ago. Dang, dude, it looks like the government just got quite a bit richer in the crypto department. I know billions really is nothing to the federal government, you know, they think in trillions and all that. That being said, I don't know how much validity is to this. I was reading somewhere that like the United States government actually is one of the biggest holders of cryptocurrency when you include everything they've seized from all the crimes involved. I mean, this is obviously a huge score. $3.6 billion from one seizure is absolutely insane, but the US government even before this was stacking it up. I think the US Marshals Service was like the main people in charge of Bitcoin. Once a case is closed, the U.S. Marshal Service is the main agency responsible for auctioning off the government's crypto holdings. To date, it has seized and auctioned more than 185,000 bitcoins, and the cache of coins is worth $8.6 billion, though many were sold in batches well below today's price. I mean, obviously, like it said, they've sold some of it, but as of now, they've got another $3.6 billion in crypto, unless this case ends up going against them. Could you imagine if this was a case of the wrong people, like the hackers just sent $3.6 billion $1,000 to some random couple in New York. Honestly, though, I feel like they probably, whoever did this, had thought they'd gotten away with it. If you had hacked something back in 2016 and 6 years later, like you still were just vibing laundering the money, you probably think you've gotten away with it. You know, stealing millions of dollars is already insane enough. Once crypto appreciation comes in, you're sitting on $4 billion. At that point, you gotta know someone's gonna notice, right? Like, there's really no way that you can get $4 billion cleanly into anything. I mean, maybe you can. I don't know anything about money laundering. I'm a YouTuber. It's not like I'm an expert out here. But I just feel like $4 billion is a very daunting task to take on, and chances are someone's gonna notice something's fishy about it. Obviously, this is all still alleged, but my goodness, $3.6 billion. The stolen cryptocurrency, valued at $71 million at the time of the theft, is now valued at $4.5 billion. This man and his wife were arrested in Manhattan on Tuesday morning and face federal charges of conspiracy to commit money laundering and conspiracy to defraud the United States. It was unclear if they had lawyers or people who could speak on their behalf. Imagine, dude, you steal $71 million. Obviously, this is alleged. We don't know if it's them, but imagine you did steal $71 million. You're like, oh my God, this is so nuts. How am I ever gonna launder all of this? This is insane. This is so much money. And then over the next few years, you just watch it get bigger and bigger until you're like, oh my God, dude, I'm basically, you know, the equivalent of a founder of a Fortune 500 company now. Oops, I don't really know how smooth this one's gonna go. Obviously, you know, as I said, all alleged, but you are gonna hope that they're gonna use some of this crypto money to lawyer up if it is what they've been taken. I'm just saying, bro, this is not the situation where you probably want to get up and calmly explain you had nothing to do with it. If they kick down the door and you've got $4.6 billion in a crypto account, I don't know what excuses they're gonna listen to. I don't know all the details. Obviously, innocent until proven guilty. I'm not an expert. But overall, this situation is just wild. It sounds like something more of what you would expect to see in a movie rather than reality. A few years ago, I got away with stealing $71 million. Not bad, right? The reason I'm in this helicopter over the jungle right now, about to jump out with a briefcase attached to my wrist, is because it's worth $4.5 billion. Hi, this is my story. Roll credits, bro. MGM Studios, the whole Hollywood thing. It's gonna be a movie one day, I'm telling you. It's gonna be like a digital Wolf of Wall Street. Prosecutors say they relied on a series of sophisticated techniques to receive the stolen Bitcoin into a digital wallet they controlled and to conceal the transaction and hide the movement of the money. Millions of dollars in transactions were cashed out through Bitcoin ATMs and used to purchase gold and non-fungible tokens, as well as more mundane items like Walmart gift cards used for personal expenses, prosecutors said. I mean, I'm gonna hope that they were using sophisticated ways to stay off the radar if it took you 6 years to find them. Could you imagine? They're like, actually, we don't know how they managed to hide in plain sight as long as they did, dude. They rolled around in an orange Lamborghini with Bitcoin thief on the back license plate. Like, I'm going to assume that anybody that's got the know-how to be involved in laundering $4.5 million is probably also smart enough to, like, figure out a way to do it that's not insanely unsophisticated. You know, I'm not saying you should ever do this. I don't think you should be money laundering or you know, stealing money. That being said, if somebody's ballsy enough to go in and launder $71 million, chances are they're going to have at least a plan in their head about how they're going to do it. They're not just going to start willy-nilly pulling it out of the ATM at the bank. I mean, maybe if they're an idiot. And, you know, maybe these people aren't guilty, innocent until proven guilty. But that being said, I love how, like, the government's acting all surprised that these people were a little bit smart. I mean, they got their hands on a stolen $71 million. We probably could have assumed that whoever did this is a criminal mastermind. The couple were not charged in the Bitfinex hack, which resulted in more than 2,000 unauthorized transactions. Justice Department officials say that though the proliferation of cryptocurrency and virtual currency exchanges represents innovation, the trend has also been accompanied by money laundering, ransomware, and other crimes. Today's arrest and the department's largest financial seizure ever show that cryptocurrency is not a safe haven for criminals, Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco said in a statement. In a futile effort to maintain digital anonymity, the defendants laundered stolen funds through a labyrinth of cryptocurrency transactions, and thanks to the meticulous work of law enforcement, the department once again showed how it can and will follow the money no matter the form it takes. Alright, so I'm not a crypto expert by any means, but this was always something I kind of had in the back of my head as a question. Like, okay, if the entire point of the blockchain is that every transaction is permanently recorded, then like why would you also assume that transactions are private? Because if somebody really wanted to, couldn't they go through and track every transaction? And sure, the average Joe isn't going to go through and like track every transaction, but if the federal government is in an investigation, they're probably the people that are going to go out of their way to track it down. You know, one more time, the people that we're talking about here allegedly did it. I don't know. They weren't charged with the hack. I'm not sure. You know, I don't know the details. That being said, blockchain as a technology is kind of like the opposite of super private. Obviously, there's certain cryptocurrencies that prioritize privacy. But I mean, yeah, I'm not surprised that the federal government is starting to like go through the super meticulous effort of tracking down these transactions. Even if you were to put it in something like a Tumblr, which is where like you send it to a wallet to 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 send it back to you, the trail is still there on some level. Like, yeah, the average person definitely not gonna go looking through that. The federal government, they probably got some time on their hands, dude. They can probably look through that pretty easily. You know, I'm no criminal mastermind, but it always has been confusing why everybody's like, no, blockchain's super great for doing shady stuff. It's like, it's literally an irreversible ledger, bro. Regardless, you know, no matter what happens in this, whether or not they got the right people here, the amount is what's really nuts to me. The fact that like $3.6 to $4.5 billion just kind of went missing is nuts, especially when you're considering the fact that it was $75 million when it was initially taken back in 2016. So what, 6 years later-ish, somewhere around there? I can't math very well. That being said, dude, that amount of price appreciation is nuts. 75 million's already a massive amount of money, but 3.6 billion makes that look like a tiny little sum. Regardless, I just thought this was insane. I've never really seen amounts this big in an article like this, so I figured I would share it with you guys. Let me know what you guys thought in the comment section down below. I'd really appreciate it. Along with that, you should subscribe, turn on notifications so you never miss another video. I make videos kind of like this every single day, so subscribe if you're new, turn on noties. Other than that, I'm going to go ahead and put a link to the intro song down below, along with a link to my podcast, The Scuffed Cast, or, of course, you could use code SCRUBBY at the G Fuel checkout. Great way to get a discount on G Fuel. Help me out at the same time. And the last link in the description is a link to the merch store, so feel free to go get yourself a t-shirt. On that note, though, guys, that's gonna do it. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. And today I've got a story time that was sent in to me about the worst roommate that this person has ever had. And usually when we talk about bad roommates here on the channel, it's like gross, not cleaning up after themselves. This person might just be the stupidest person I've ever heard of in my entire life. So I thought it would be a story time y'all would really enjoy. So without further ado, let's get into it. But before we do, be sure to press the like button. Otherwise, no joke, no scam whatsoever. Your first roommate will be as bad as this guy. I had to bring back no joke, no scam for this video. So let's go. Alright, so the person who sent this to me had just graduated college, and there was a town that they had spent a lot of time in when they were younger on vacations and stuff, and it happened to have a pretty popping industry for what they had majored in. So they wanted to move down there, try to get a job, because it had always been a dream of theirs, so they started looking for an apartment on Craigslist. And listen, I'm not saying that Craigslist is always gonna end up being a horrible roommate if that's where you look, but I am saying that it's the year 2022, and anyone that is using Craigslist to still find roommates is gonna have themselves a bad time. I feel like Craigslist at this point is known for like either buying stuff 10 minutes away from you or horrible things. Those are the two things that it's known for. I don't know why you would take the gamble and roll the dice on a Craigslist roommate, but whatever, this person decided to do it and they said they regret it now. That's all you gotta know about that. So they met the person who they were rooming in with once before they moved in, and everything seemed normal enough, so they decided to move in. And once they moved in, for the first couple weeks, everything was normal. Their roommate was a little bit of a dorkier guy, didn't go out a whole lot, spent most of his time alone playing video games. I can't judge anyone for that, because that's kind of what I do. Imagine if I came out here and was like, oh, this dude played video games, cringe. But for the most part, the roommate situation was pretty alright. But one night, a couple weeks after this guy had moved in, they were chilling, watching TV, and they were watching something that was like, I don't know, not controversial, like a football game. And out of nowhere, the roommate looks at the subscriber who sent this to me and goes, "How do you feel about the fact that lizard people run the government?" And obviously that catches the subscriber off guard because it's not every day you're just like watching sports and someone casually admits that they think lizard people run the government and what your opinion is on it. So he's just kind of like, I don't know. I don't really feel like lizard people run the government. And that was the first time he knew his roommate was a little bit out there, because he proceeded to talk for the next 3 hours about how all of the people in charge of the world are secretly lizards and how, you know, obviously they're lizards because you can see them blink sideways sometimes on TV. Just like the weirdest, most out there conspiracy theories of all time. And the person who sent this to me is just sitting there smiling going, yeah, because when someone reveals they're crazy, the last thing you want to do is be the person to call them crazy. So he's just like, oh, okay. He ends up going to his room and he makes a note to himself in his head that my roommate's a little bit out there and I should probably just avoid having situations where I have to talk to him in the future. And that, I guess, made the roommate feel like he was cool with the roommate having all these crazy conspiracy theories and stuff and maybe acting a little bit different, because it was almost like after that conversation, his guard was let down and he just started letting the full force of his weirdness and full effect come out. He would come home and his roommate would be sitting in the middle of the living room with all the lights off, rocking back and forth in the fetal position, talking about how the lizards were listening. And, you know, whenever the roommate would come home, he would just look up at him and go, "Oh, hey man," and get up like nothing was happening, which made it even weirder. Either way, it's creepy, right? Like, imagine you come home to your roommate in the fetal position, rocking back and forth. But the fact that he would be able to get up and act completely normal when he came home made him more uncomfortable, because it was like, dude, what is happening? Are you just rocking back and forth for 9 hours a day until I get back? One day, though, things were a little different. The subscriber comes home and his roommate is doing the thing where he's just sitting there in the dark. But this time when he looks at him, instead of being like, "Oh, hey bro, what's up?" going back to normal, he looks at him and he says, "I found all of the listening devices." And, you know, there were no listening devices, so the roommate gets a little confused and he's like, "All right, what do you mean you found listening devices?" And the crazy conspiracy theorist guy goes, "Look on the ground." And at that point, the subscriber looks down, and all on the ground around him, the entire living room floor is covered in forks, all the forks that they had had. When he had first moved in, he had obviously asked the guy if it was cool if he used his silverware and whatnot, and the guy had said yeah. And he had had 4 drawers full of just forks, which is weird, but it's even more weird that he had had all these drawers full of the forks just to eventually find out that they're the listening devices. And so the subscriber, trying to calm him down, goes, "Hey, I don't think those are listening devices. Those are just forks. You have a lot of forks. If they're all listening devices, then how'd they get him in here?" And he starts to get upset with him, and he's like, "Those are not forks. They're multi-pointed alien listening devices." Which, multi-pointed, technically the truth. Alien listening device, I don't know about that. Even if it was an alien listening device, why would they put 3 drawers full of them in your house? Obviously, it's not a conspiracy theory. Like, we all know aliens don't use forks as listening devices. They probably don't use listening devices at all. They're just aliens. They're smarter than us. But let's roll with them here. They put 900 listening devices in your house, but they just put all of them in the kitchen. It doesn't seem like that much of an advanced smart species at that point. It seems like they have horrible ideas. But either way, he's very insistent that all of these forks on the ground are indeed alien listening devices. And the subscriber is like, "All right, dude, I get that you think they're alien listening devices, but I need forks to eat. It's not like I can eat everything with a spoon." And the roommate, in his infinite wisdom, had obviously already thought about that. Come on, you don't find a bunch of listening devices in your house and not come up with the backup plan. So what he said is that they were no longer allowed to use these forks. He had to throw them away because they're listening devices, but they could use plastic ones. And then he tapped next to him, and there was a box that the subscriber hadn't seen that was full of a bunch of plastic forks, which is horrible for the environment, might I add. But the roommate then goes around the room, grabs up all these forks, just a big handful of them, And he starts walking to the kitchen. And there were so many forks on the floor that he had tried to pick up that as he's walking to the kitchen, all you're hearing is like ching, 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 ching. Forks falling, hitting the tile. But he goes over to the trash can, and the next sound the subscriber hears is just all of the forks going into the trash. And at that point, he was too tired from work to actually have the argument. There were plastic forks. He was going to eat later. So he decided his best course of action would probably to go to his room. Just because here was this guy thinking that all the forks were listening devices. I probably wouldn't want to be around that very long either. So just go to your room and figure out what the next move was. So he gets to his room and he's a little bit confused because he's like, most people probably don't have to deal with this. It's not every day that you come home to your roommate throwing away most of the silverware in the house because he's convinced that it's a listening device, but I guess this is my problem. And so he starts texting one of his friends being like, man, I don't know what to do. Like, this is insane. I don't know how much longer I can live with this. It's just too crazy. And he hears a knock on his door and he goes, who is it? And his roommate opens the door and says, hey, I just wanted to let you know that I think the aliens are going to come take me tonight. And he's like, dude, what do you mean? Like, the aliens are not going to come take you. There's no way that's going to happen. But his roommate is pretty insistent. He says, the lizard people are mad at me, so the aliens are going to come save me from the lizard people. And then he, like, leaves. He closes the door. And so the subscriber is insanely confused. Imagine somebody just coming and knocking on your door. Hey, man, the aliens are going to kidnap me tonight. You're like, what aliens? You know, the sworn enemies of the lizard people that run the government. You'd be like, yeah, okay, good luck with that. But whatever, he kind of brushes it off and forgets about it because his roommate is going to be there the next morning. Alright guys, I'm going to interrupt the video for 1 second. On screen now is a gift card code. I give one of these away in every video, so subscribe and turn on notifications, otherwise I will have to fight you. And let's get back to the video. Well, he wakes up the next morning and he goes out and he's immediately shocked because all of his roommate's stuff is gone. The couch, the kitchen table, all of the silverware, everything from all the cabinets. And last night, it was all still there. So he kind of starts to freak out a little bit like, bro, did this guy get taken by aliens? This is insane. All of this stuff is gone. And he's kind of freaking out because even if the guy had moved out in the middle of the night, that would A, be weird, and B, how did he manage to get all the stuff out by himself in the middle of the night without waking anyone up or making noise? So he's freaking out, but he decides the best course of action would be to go to the apartment office and ask if they knew anything. Because if the guy's just gone missing, he doesn't know what to do, so he decides to go down there. And he had never been to the apartment office before. When he had met the dude on Craigslist, he had just sublet a room in the apartment. So he didn't really have to do a whole lot with the main office. That was that guy's job. So he goes in there and he says, hey, I'm subletting a room in apartment, da-da-da-da-da. All my roommate's stuff is gone. Did he move out or something? I'm not sure what's going on. And they like start looking it up at the computer and then they look at him really confused and they go, wait, what unit was it? So he says the number and they go, well, that can't be right because that unit is vacant. And then he's like, no, it's not. Here's the key. So one of them goes with him. They open the door. They see it. They're like, holy crap, this one's supposed to have been empty. And that's when they realize the roommate he's been living with that's obsessed with like the lizard people and he's going to get kidnapped by aliens had just been squatting in this apartment. He was renting a room from a squatter. And if you don't know what a squatter is, it's someone that just goes into a building and starts living there. They're not a legal tenant. They're not actually supposed to be living there. He had just found an empty apartment and moved in and then posted on Craigslist that there was a room for rent. So the apartment staff is like, how long have you been living here? He's like, a month, weeks. And they start looking around and the staff is flabbergasted because when an apartment is vacant, it's not supposed to have like internet power, any of that stuff. Somehow, Lizard Conspiracy Man had like managed to get power into it. He had daisy chained and DIY'd the power box to work. He had gotten the water to work. Everything was working, which is also why the subscriber had never thought anything was weird. You know, if someone's squatting, you'd assume things would be obvious. Certain stuff wouldn't work. People would come knock on the door and whatnot. But the guy had been good at it, even to the point where he would talk to the neighbors and whatnot, and they thought that he was renting. They had no clue it was supposed to have been vacant either. So the apartment team is like, we have to figure this out. This is supposed to be vacant, so you can't stay here. So the subscriber has to like get a bag full of his stuff. He gets in a hotel room for a few days.
And after a while, the apartment staff calls him and they're like, we have no clue who the guy who was living in that apartment was. He wasn't supposed to be in there. It was supposed to be empty. But since you say you were subletting from him off Craigslist, we'll rent you the apartment. And the subscriber who sent this to me responds and is like, listen, as flattering as that is for the offer, I'm not really down to do that because the last thing I want is the guy that apparently is getting kidnapped by aliens to show back up. The dude didn't have an issue breaking into places because he had been squatting there for a while, so I probably wouldn't want to stay either. Just some guy you know is borderline unstable talking about how the governments are colluding against him because they're all secretly lizards. He disappears one day, moved out in the middle of the night. You go talk to the office, you find out he was never supposed to be there in the first place. No thank you, I'm not gonna stay there. And he had keys for the door and everything. Like, this guy was a professional apartment squatter. So they say that's all right, that's fine, they understand. So he goes and gets the rest of his stuff. He hadn't been able to grab all of it, and he moves into a different apartment. And he thinks that's the end of it. He thinks that's all good. The guy has still been missing. Nobody knows where he is. It's not like they were exceptionally close. He didn't have his find my location or anything like that, but still, the guy straight up vanishes, obviously not taken by aliens, but just decided to leave in the middle of the night with all of his stuff. Probably knew they were about to catch on to the squatting. Maybe the apartment was getting rented out soon or something like that, so he just knew that he had to get out of there, but he was gone. When one day the subscriber wakes up and he has a message on Facebook and he clicks it because who uses Facebook anymore, and the request is from the guy. And the request just says, hey man, I left some stuff there. Do you happen to have it? So he replies to him and lets him know, look, I know you were squatting. You sublet the apartment. I had to move out like it was an entire thing. That why did you do that? Like, squatting's illegal, just kind of letting him know that the guy had really screwed him over and affected him. And all the guy replied with was, yeah, that's what happens when the lizards are after you. He had just deluded himself into thinking squatting was something that he had to do because the secret government of the world was after him or something. And at that point, the subscriber just decided to give him the old block, which was the best maneuver. If someone's crazy and saying all this stuff, it's probably best to just block them and not get involved. But yeah, I think that'll do it for the video. Obviously, the story was insane. I had to share it with y'all. If you did enjoy, I'd appreciate you guys being sure to press the like button. Let me know in the comments section down below what you thought of the video. If you made it this far and you don't know what to comment, just go ahead and comment the word aliens. It helps the video do better. But yeah, like I said, like, subscribe, turn on notifications, all that stuff. I post videos like this daily. If you really want to help me out, I do have a Spotify podcast where I post the audio versions of the Spotify or the story time, sorry. Feel free to check that out, link down below, along with a link to a playlist I made here on YouTube with all my favorite videos of the year so far. Both of those links are down below, check it out. But yeah, on that note, that'll officially do it. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrubby here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. And today I've got a story time for y'all that I think you'll enjoy. It's from a pretty bizarre day I had when I went to a friend's house, and we ended up fighting this group of kids in his neighborhood. They were kind of like pirates. There's really no other way to describe them, but just on bicycles. They were just kind of rolling around, terrorizing the neighborhood, stealing stuff. A little group of bike pirates, you know, not something you expect to deal with. Regardless, I figured it would be a pretty entertaining story time for y'all, so without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, in third grade, there was a kid in my class that I'm gonna name Michael, and Michael was pretty cool. Me and him talked a lot about Pokemon, and one day he was like, hey, this weekend you should come over to my house, bring your bike, and we can just kind of hang out. And I was like, bet, I'll ask my dad. I asked my parents, they don't really care. My mom calls Michael's mom, sets up the play date as you do when you're younger, and I'm hyped. I'm like, let's go. I'm gonna ride some bikes. I'm gonna hang out with my friend. It's gonna be a great weekend. So I get over to my house and I take my bike out of the back of my dad's truck and I go into the garage, and Michael's standing there and he's like, hey man, what's up? How you doing? I'm like, I'm good. How are you? And I look around and I don't see a bike for Michael. So I'm kind of confused. I'm like, oh, I thought you said I should bring my bike so we could ride bikes. Where's your bike? And he gets this kind of sad look on his face and he goes, oh, the pirates took it. And obviously I'm a little bit perplexed because I don't think I'm living in Pirates of the Caribbean. I don't live on the island of Tortuga. There's no privateers for the French government rolling around raiding Spanish ships as far as I'm aware of. Unless I stepped off the truck into a time machine or something, there shouldn't be pirates. So I kind of ask what he means. And he says there's this group of older kids in the neighborhood that roll around on their bikes, and they kind of just like stop all the kids when they're riding around and take stuff from them. And they had stopped him the other day, but he didn't have anything on him. Because we're like third graders. Obviously, we're not going to have a wallet on us. We're not going to have like millions of dollars in cash. Third grade me did not have pounds of gold bars in a backpack riding around on my bike for additional weight training, believe it or not. And so they had decided that they were just going to take Michael's bike. You know, oh, if you don't have anything to give me that's valuable, then I'll take the bike. And I don't know what they would want to do with a third grader's bike. It's a little bit too small for them, but sure enough, they had taken it. And I'm like, bro, that sucks. What are we going to do? And he says, well, we can still go to the bike jumps and ride your bike, because I'm pretty sure that the pirate gang isn't going to be there or whatever. And obviously, I didn't want to interact with the pirate gang, but at the same time, he was really insistent on wanting to go to these bike jumps, so I was like, all right, fine, we can go. So he hops on the pegs of my bike, and we start riding to these bike jumps that are on the edge of his neighborhood. And we get there, and I'm not gonna lie, I see why he was excited, because it's a pretty cool, like, BMX track. Not an official one, but almost like all the neighborhood kids had just gathered around, grabbed some shovels, and decided to make some jumps. And we're kind of taking turns, cruising around on the jumps and whatnot. And it's located next to this bike trail. And the way it's situated, it's a little taller than the bike trail. You have to go up this little hill to get to where the jumps are. It's like a plateau looking thing. And you can see a little bit down the trail. And as I'm going up the ramps, he's like, hey, Ryan, we might have a problem. So I ride over on my bike and I'm like, what's the issue? And he points and I see a group of what appears to be like 4, 5, 5th graders. I don't really know. They could have been 4th graders, 6th graders. All I knew is that they were a little bit older than us. We're in 3rd grade at the time, and they're on their way towards the jumps. And he goes, that's the pirates. And obviously, I'm a little bit confused because I was already in a bizarre position when he started mentioning pirates, but realizing it's just another group of elementary school kids made it more confusing. Like what? Did their parents just allow them to commit sea crimes, but not on the ocean? Like, were they just chilling watching the news one day? Somali pirates popped up. Ooh, that's an inspirational story. I don't know, man. I think Captain Phillips was supposed to be a drama about how bad it would be to be kidnapped by pirates. I don't think it was supposed to inspire anyone. That movie definitely was not out when I was in 3rd grade. Maybe that's why. If only they had seen Captain Phillips, they would understand the dangers of piracy. Either way, he says, okay, let's get out of here before they get here. And listen, I've never interacted with these pirates. This entire story sounds kind of dumb to me. I'm not afraid of a bunch of kids who claim to be pirates. So I am like, no, dude, let's stay. Like, what are they gonna do? And he's like, Ryan, they're gonna try to take your bike. Trust me, like, you don't wanna deal with these pirates. And I'm like, I'm not worried about it. They're not gonna do anything. I would be wrong, by the way. Always trust the people that actually live there. I don't know why I thought I knew better, but I was like, nah, they're not gonna do nothing. And they're still a little bit away. Like, you know, they are kind of, maybe a minute or two away. And as they're riding up, another group of kids that are around our age pulls up from the other side, so can't see them coming. And instantly, Michael's like, oh, those are my friends, blah, 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 blah. And he yells out that the pirates are coming, and they kind of freak out. And they're like, well, we don't have time to go anywhere, so we'll just group up, and maybe they'll be a little bit intimidated. And at this point, it's like 5 of us and 5 of them. It's pretty even. We're a lot younger and smaller. Our odds are not very good if piracy's about to go down. I'm not trying to be Captain Phillips, but whatever, you know, we're just kind of standing there. And I'm starting to get nervous because everybody else is nervous. Like I said, I've never interacted with these quote-unquote pirates. If they're anything like Jack Sparrow, I'll take my chances. What are they gonna do? Do the Jack Sparrow run at me? I'm not afraid, but I'm starting to freak out because they're all afraid. And there was a kid that was a little younger than us, like 1st, 2nd grade maybe, and he starts crying. And at that point, I'm just scared. I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it and say, oh, I was pretending to be brave. I'm like, oh, we should have gotten out of here. And Michael says, yeah, I know. You're an idiot. You didn't listen to me. And at that point, they kind of come up over the ridge. And like I said, they're a little bit bigger than us. And one of them on the back of his bike has like a flag mounted, and it's the Jolly Roger. These kids are committed to their little pirate gang. I don't know what documentary they were watching to inspire this. I feel like as a parent, at some point, I would kind of realize my kid is up to no good when him and all of his friends talk about being a pirate. They have Jolly Ranchers on their bike. Not Jolly Ranchers, Jolly Rogers. I guess Jolly Ranchers too. Don't stick candy to metal, kids. But if they had the Jolly Rancher, Jolly Roger. I did it again! The Jolly Roger. And then every time they were over at your house, you just overheard conversations about how the last time they stole all that stuff, it went really well. Eventually, I think I'd catch on, but I guess their parents didn't. And they're like, oh, look what we have here. Plenty of stuff to steal. And then one of them goes, arr, which, in retrospect, insanely cringe. Like, bro, you're not actually a pirate. It'd be the equivalent of trying to rob someone and then talking in like Shakespeare Old English. Ye must give me your wallets or doth we die. Regardless, they kind of surround us and they start sizing us up. And then one of them, which appears to be the leader, is like, all right, guys, empty your pockets. And one of the other kids we're with says, no, we're not going to empty our pockets. And I'm not going to say anything, but I agreed with him. I'm not going to empty my pockets. If you're going to rob me, then like, I'm at least going to make you work for it. Not now. Now that I'm an adult, I realize that if someone's robbing you, it's probably better to just be like, okay, take my wallet. I'm not dying for this. But back then, man, I was like, no one will steal from me. I have a level 82 Blastoise and Pokemon Fire Red. I can't be touched. Obviously, that's not reality. But at the time, you know, I thought I was tough. And they're like, oh, okay, then we're gonna have a problem. You're gonna have to fight us. And the kid that's talking all this crap is the shortest person on our team other than the kid that's younger than us. And so everyone's kind of looking at him like, bro, what are you doing? You know, we're not trying to get beat up. And he's like, we're not afraid of you. Which, speak for yourself, man. I'm not saying I was horrified, but I definitely wasn't thrilled with the idea of having to fight these kids that were much larger than us. And at that point, they're like, yeah, oh, you think you're tough? And the leader of the pirate group stepped off of his bike. And this is where he made the large mistake. He walks over to the kid that's talking all this crap and kind of grabs him by his shirt collar, like the classic bully move. And he starts kind of lifting the kid up, but he can't lift him all the way up. Like, he's just kind of holding him on his tiptoes by his shirt collar. And he's like, I'm going to start with, you know, taking stuff from you. Give me everything in your pockets. And obviously, the kid that's getting robbed at this point is not feeling too thrilled with the situation. And he's feeling threatened for a good reason. Someone's got him by the collar and is demanding he empty his pockets. So he does what I think is the best tactical move he could possibly do. Reaches 1 foot back like he's playing soccer and delivers a kick to the one place you can kick someone where they're guaranteed to drop you. I don't need to spell it out for you. He kicks him there really hard. And so obviously the leader of the pirate gang lets go of his collar and kind of doubles over onto the ground. And everyone in our group is like, run! And so we hop on our bikes and we start trying to leave. But the other group of this pirate gang is like trying to block us in from being able to leave. And so I start pedaling and one of the kids gets in front of me to like block me from going down this little hill to get onto the bike trail. And a couple of the people that were with us had already gotten down the hill. So it's me, Michael, and another kid. And I'm pedaling full speed. And I'm like, well, I've got two options here. I can either stop and get all the anger for that kid's kick taken out on me, which does not sound very appetizing. I like my face like I like my oranges, not bruised. So I decided to do the classic game of chicken. And I'm not saying this was my smartest idea because it ended up hurting me, but I just start pedaling even faster. I don't really have a chance if I'm gonna fight this dude. Like, he's just bigger than me. If I try to stop the bike and fight him, I'm not gonna win. So at the time, and I'm not saying this was my smartest idea ever, I was just like, I'm just gonna ride my bike as fast as I can, and hopefully he moves out of the way. A classic game of chicken. And the problem with chicken is if the person you're playing chicken with isn't a chicken. Because this guy was not going to move, and obviously he wasn't going to. I'm like some little third grader pedaling my bike as angrily as I can. But the two people that are with me are behind me, and I yell out like, I'm gonna hit him. And they're like, do it. So I keep pedaling my bike, and my adrenaline's kind of pumping at this point because I didn't expect the entire fight to go down. And I smash my bike into the side of his bike, and he falls over, and I fall over, and I scrape up the entire right side of my arm. I had a short sleeve shirt on, and it just kind of got cheese gratered by all the rocks in the dirt. But the kid I ran into had just kind of fallen over. He's not hurt or anything, but he's underneath the bikes and me, so he can't get up as fast as I can. And even though my arm hurt, and it really hurt, dude, I jump up as fast as I can. I get on my bike, and the other two people that were behind me go around us and go down this hill. And I jump on my bike and I go down the hill. So now I'm following Michael and the other kid through the neighborhood. And we are pedaling like our little legs never have before, dude. We are just Lance Armstrong, full of steroids, Tour de France, riding these bikes. and we're flying through the neighborhood, and we come around this corner to this long road, and at the end of this long road was Michael's house, and I guess the kid that was with us lived on that street too. And by that point, we'd gone down the bike trail, weaved and gone in and out of some neighborhood streets, so we think that we've lost him, and we're kind of laughing now. We're like, dude, that was insane. I told Michael I needed some peroxide for my arm, but, you know, it was better than getting robbed, I guess. I didn't necessarily make the best choices, but at the time, I was like, I kept my bike, so that's what really mattered to me. And this road is probably, I don't know, it felt like 2 miles long, but it's probably like a quarter, half a mile long. That's really long at the time. And as we're going down it, the kid that's with us turns around and he goes, guys? And sure enough, me and Michael turn around, and I had a feeling it was gonna be them pedaling after us, but when we turn and look, all 5 of them are now pedaling after us as fast as they can. And because they're a little bit older and bigger, they can ride their bikes a little bit faster, so they're gaining on us. And I really don't feel like being caught, because now not only did the other kids kick their leader, but now I've just crashed into one of them, caused him to fall over. Like, we were kind of yelling trash back at them as we were biking away. So it's kind of like, oh no. So even though we had calmed down when we got onto the street, we start Tour de Francing it again, and we're going as fast as we can. And Michael had in his pocket, he had like a little tiny flip phone that his parents had given him and a garage door opener. And they're gaining on us, and as we're getting near Michael's house, they're officially so up on us that we can hear them yelling. And they're like, when we get you, we're gonna beat the crap out of you. Like, we're gonna take everything you guys have. Like, I can't believe you thought you could get away from us. So we are just like probably screwed. I'm still riding my bike as fast as I can, but I hear them getting closer, so I'm just kind of like, I'm not gonna look back anymore because it's not going to do anything but make me more scared. I just keep riding. But Michael clicks the garage door button, and I see the garage door coming up, and I'm like, okay, if we can get into the garage, we should be okay. And we fly up his driveway. It was kind of at the end of the road, and we get in, and he presses the button as soon as he gets through, and it starts dropping. And as much as I would love to say that I did like the Mission Impossible motorbike, I'm getting switched up today, I'm sorry. Motorbike, like sideways slide underneath the garage door. I made it underneath the garage door with a bunch of room, but they were just far enough behind us that they couldn't get into the garage. And so we stopped the bikes. And at this point, we're just scared because they had almost caught back up with us. We weren't talking any trash, and we're just standing in the garage absolutely silent. And they're outside banging on the garage door, being like, get out here, get out here. And me and Michael are looking at each other, and you don't have to say anything in that situation to know that we're not going out there. Like, I don't care no matter how much they say I'm a wimp for running away. I'm not going out there. I'm not fighting a 2v5 with people that are twice my size. Michael, if you want to do a 1v5 situation, try to lock up the clutch, that's on you, man. But like, I know that's a stupid decision, so I'm not backing you up. So we stay in the garage absolutely silent, and we probably should have just gone inside, but we were afraid that they would hear us go in the house and like get into the garage somehow. So we're just standing there silently, and they're outside the garage for a while. And after a while, they stop banging on it, but we can still hear them talking, and they're pissed. They're like, dude, when I get my hands on those kids, I'm gonna beat the crap out of them. I can't believe they thought they could do that. And me and Michael are standing there in the garage looking at each other silently like, crap. So whatever, after a little bit, they end up leaving, and Michael's like, dude, that was crazy. I can't believe that happened. We had been silent while they were standing out there. And I'm like, yeah, dude, that was crazy, but I'm not really a big fan of that. Hanging out's cool, but I'm not really sure how I feel about coming back to your house now that there's an angry group of... Alright, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrubby here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. And today I've got a story time for y'all I think you're going to enjoy. It's about this weird kid that used to ride the bus with me and my friend who ended up screaming at my friend and I because we were talking about video games because apparently it was going to corrupt our souls and turn us into demons. The usual thing people get upset about on the school bus, normal Tuesday. I thought you guys would enjoy it, and yeah, without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so this story took place in 2nd or 3rd grade, I can't remember, but as long as I've been alive, there was this dude whose family lived down the street from my parents' house that I've been good friends with, and we both had PS2s, and it just so happened that we both had 2 games that we really liked to play, and that was Sly Cooper and the Thievis Raccoonus.
and Star Wars Lego, the OG one, so we would just kind of talk about that when we would ride the bus together. Since we lived close to each other, we had the same bus stop, our parents knew each other, so we would just kind of hang out on the bus and talk about video games. There's really not a whole lot to talk about when you're on your way to school, so it just gave us a way to make the bus a little bit more entertaining. And 99.9% of the time, no one would even pay attention. Like, I mean, I don't know about you guys. Whenever I was on the bus, it's not like I really cared about what other people were talking about. It takes a weird type of individual to go out of your way to, like, overhear conversations on the bus and let them bother you. You know, I get sometimes you're gonna overhear things, it's just the nature of having ears. But if you overhear a stranger's conversation and feel like you have to get involved and get all pissed off, that's kinda weird, bro. But most of the time that wouldn't happen, and if people did get involved, it was usually because they played the game and wanted to talk to us about it, and that was all good. But there was a time in the year where most of the bus had been misbehaving, and you know me, I would never, ever misbehave under any circumstances, so I had nothing to do with it. However, our bus driver, to quell how much we were misbehaving, decided that she was gonna do like a bus seating chart. And you have to push a bus driver pretty far to make them make a seating chart, but she did. And it just so happened that I got sat next to my friend who lived on my street. I think she knew that like we got on the bus together, we would get off the bus together, and we were friends, and we weren't a part of the problem that she knew of. Anyways, she didn't think we were a part of the problem, so she decided to just keep us together, but she decided to put these two kids in front of us, one of which was named Dennis, and he was pretty cool. He played video games like we did. Not that that makes you cool, like, you know what I'm saying. He didn't have beef with people for no reason. That's what I'm trying to say. And he would talk to us every now and then. But the other kid in front of us, I'm going to name him Larry for the purpose of the video. And Larry was just not the coolest guy I've ever met in my entire life, to put it nicely. Listen, if you want to have your opinions on things, then by all means have your opinion. It's America. You can think whatever you think, and no one has the right to tell you that, like, you can't think that. They have the right to tell you you're wrong, but at the end of the day, you can think what you think. But the worst type of people are people who have a thought or an opinion about something and they can't keep it to themselves. You're allowed to hate something. It doesn't mean everyone else has to hate it. And Larry happened to be very, very anti-video game for some reason. I don't know why. Like, I don't know if his mom was just inundating him with some brainwashing about how if you play video games, you're going to become a demon. But literally, anytime we would be talking about video games, his eyes would light up like we were talking about just the most forbidden subject of all time. And he would actively tell us, like, to stop talking about it. And obviously, we weren't going to stop talking about it because there was no reason for us to stop talking about it. Believe it or not, talking about the map in Sly Cooper, where you have to get around the junkyard with all the dogs everywhere, isn't controversial. There's nothing really weird about that. It's just a fun conversation. But he would always be like, guys, stop. And when we wouldn't stop, he wouldn't push it any further, but it would just get annoying. And he would get really pissed off whenever Dennis, the guy who would sit with him, would like turn around and look over the seat and talk to us about video games. Because he was like, Dennis, you're making me have to listen to this stuff and I don't want to listen to it, so you can't talk about it. And Dennis would argue with him. But overall, the guy was just kind of a know-it-all, bossy person that kind of sat to sit behind. And all of this came to a head one day, and it was the day before we went on spring break. Everyone gets on the bus, everyone's hyped because we're about to be out of school for a week. That's a good thing. Not being in school was way better than being in school. And on the way home, everyone was just kind of talking about what they were going to do on spring break, what their plans were. Some people had like vacations planned. Some people were just going to go to the lake. Some people were going to do nothing. Some people were going to visit their grandma. Some people were going to rob a bank, maybe several. Who knows? A small little crime spree. These things happen from time to time. And for the most part, everyone's being normal. You know, it's not your business really what other people are doing, but if they're going to tell you, the nice thing to do, the polite thing to do is to be like, oh, that's awesome. I bet you'll enjoy that. But Larry is just being insanely judgmental to everybody. Like, someone was saying that they were going to go to Florida for a trip, which Florida's a pretty cool vacation spot. And Larry just started going off about how Disney World had corrupted Florida and anyone who goes there is supporting an evil corporation. Just going off on this person. Keep in mind, we're in like second grade. We don't have any say over where we're going on vacation. What would you have liked the second grader to do, Larry? Mom,
Dad, listen, I don't care that you've already bought the tickets. I don't care that you've spent thousands of dollars on this trip. We can't go because one kid on the bus said that Florida sucks. And he was just kind of picking fights with people. And then me and my friends started talking about the fact that we were going to try to 100% Lego Star Wars while we were on spring break. He was going to come over. I was going to go over to his house. We were going to use one memory card. And we were going to try to 100% it. Kind of stupid, but it was really fun. And I don't regret it at all. And it's only stupid because we could have done it way easier. We just didn't. It took us a while, right? We were young. Someone, though, had pissed in Larry's cornflakes because as soon as we started talking about video games, he turned around and looked at me and my friend and was like, "Is this really what you guys are choosing to talk about right now?" And my friend and I looked at each other confused because we didn't think it was any of his business, and I'm not really sure how I'm supposed to answer that question. You are listening to me talk about it, so obviously it's what I'm choosing to talk about right now. And I don't think it's very controversial. I don't understand why you would ask someone, is this what you're choosing to talk about right now if it's Lego Star Wars? Just imagine it's the day after the Super Bowl and you hear someone talking about the Super Bowl, and you look at them and as angrily as you can, you go, "Is this what you're choosing to talk about right now?" Like, yeah, it is. I don't know why you have an issue with it. And so we kind of ask him why he has such a problem with it, and he says it's because video games are going to corrupt us and turn us into demons. And me and my friend literally laugh because we think that he's joking. We're like, "Oh, come on, man. Like, that's gotta be a silly joke, whatever." But when we laugh, his face doesn't change. He keeps up this very serious demeanor, and my friend is like, "Dude, come on. If playing video games turned you into a demon, I would have been a demon by now, and this is ridiculous." Like, you know that's ridiculous and not true, right? And Larry says that his mom had told him that video games turn him into a demon, and his dad had said that where he works, because his dad was a nurse in the hospital, he sees kids that have to come in all the time because apparently they're gaming so much and they stop eating and drinking to game. Which, listen, I don't believe. I don't think that's true. And if that is true, bro, I don't think that's turning you into a demon. That kid's just got a very, very serious gaming addiction, and that's some other issue. I have never been in a situation where I stop eating and drinking to play video games. "No, Mom, I can't eat or drink. It's day 7 of playing Minecraft." Ryan, it's a flabbergast to anyone that you haven't died of dehydration. You have to stop. "When I game, I don't need sustenance. All that matters is the end game." That's just not possible. But even then, Larry is insistent that if we keep talking about video games, we're going to turn into demons. And I don't really know if any of you have been in the situation where someone's like, "You are going to turn into a demon." But I didn't really know what to say. But I guess my friend had prepared for this situation. I don't know how or why he thought to do this quickly, but hey, kudos to him because it was funny. But he looks at Larry and says in a very deep voice, and he starts shaking his body, appearing uncontrollably. Obviously, he was choosing to do it. But he looks at Larry and in a deep voice, he says, "Larry, we already have their souls and now we come for you." And he's shaking, and as he gets to the end, he thrusts his hands out for Larry. And Larry throws himself back into the other seat in front of him. And they turn around and they look and they're like, "Dude, what are you doing?" And Larry starts freaking out. He's like, "I knew that video games would turn them into demons. The demon just talked through him. He said that they have their souls and now they're gonna come for me. I knew video games would turn people into demons." And listen, maybe it wasn't the best idea for us to confirm to Larry that demons are in fact inside of us because of video games, but we were in 2nd, 3rd grade, so we just thought it was funny. But in Larry's mind, me laughing confirmed that I also had a demon inside me that was very thrilled that we had freaked him out. So Larry looks at me and he says, "Are you a demon too?" And listen, in this moment, there were 2 options. I could have either said, "Larry, we're messing with you. Obviously, we are not demons because of the fact that we like to play Lego Star Wars. I would never go to the dark side. I do not have temptation like Anakin or anyone else that has gone to the dark side before him, such as Count Dooku. So no, I am not a demon. I just like playing Lego Star Wars, and I want to get 100% on the game." I could have. But instead, I decided to, of course, use my own deep voice, which can't really go that deep, and pretend to be a demon too, which I know, immature, but 2nd grade, I was supposed to be immature. It was part of my character arc. That's everyone's character arc. I don't think anyone in 2nd grade is the peak of their maturity. No, honestly, I was my most mature in 3rd grade. I used to do my parents' taxes. Since then, it's gone downhill. But I just looked at Larry and said something along the
lines of. I don't remember exactly what I said. Like, yes, we're demons and we're gonna keep coming for you and haunting you as long as you keep pressing us about video games. And Larry is like freaking out. And at this point, he's pretty close to crying and he's just like, fine, I'll never talk about it again. I'll never talk about it again. Just please don't haunt me. Like, I don't want demons to haunt me. And me and my friend are just trying to hold it together, not laughing because we think this is hilarious, dude. Like, a little mean, sure. But, I mean, come on. It also relies a little bit on someone to go, oh, Lego Star Wars doesn't turn people into a demon. I didn't come up with this story, he did. I was just acting along with what he already thought anyways. It's not like we convinced him it would turn us into demons and then pretended to be demons. He said we were demons already. We were just, acting along. If anything, we were trying to support our friend in his theatrical dreams, okay? But we make him like do a swear to the demon lord that he will leave us alone, and he's like, fine, I swear, just leave me alone. So whatever. About that point, we're about a minute away from our bus stop, so we just kind of keep up the act for a minute, and we get off the bus, and he didn't get off on our stop, he got off on the next stop. And as soon as we get off the stop, me and my friend start cracking up. We're like, bro, I can't believe he believed that. Like, what was that? That was so funny. He always was so mad about video games, but like, I didn't even realize that he thought we were literally gonna become demons. And I asked my friend, I was like, why did you decide to pretend to be a demon? And he just said because he thought it would be funny, which is a fair enough answer. If someone's yelling at you like you are a demon, it is pretty funny to just roll with it. But we started walking home because we lived on the same street. We were just talking, and we kind of agreed that there was no way that Larry was going to leave us alone about video games because he was probably going to go home and tell his parents about it, and they'd be like, they weren't really demons, they were just messing with you. And so we just thought it was going to be one of those situations where we had a really funny experience, but he would eventually realize that we weren't being serious because it's pretty obvious that we were not being serious. But after spring break, we get on the bus, and sure enough, Larry sees us get on and immediately just has this fear in his eyes, bro. Like, we are just the most cursed thing he's ever seen. Number one on the cursed image board for Larry is just the image of my friend and I getting on the bus, and we sit down, and my friend decides to test it, so he goes, hey, Larry, and Larry looks back at him and says, just please leave me alone, man, I don't want any trouble. And my friend is like, dude, we're not gonna give you any trouble, like we were kidding, because we realized at this point he was kind of afraid, so we were like, okay, man, we were kidding, like we're not actually demons, we were just messing with you. We didn't want the joke to go too far. It would be mean if we convinced him and he was actually scared every time we got on the bus, so we tried to tell him we were kidding, but he goes off on us. He starts screaming at us that he had told his parents about it, and they had confirmed to him that it was true, and demons will always expose themselves to the strongest fighters of the demons. And obviously, he was a chosen one that was chosen to fight demons, but he wasn't ready yet, so in the meantime, just leave him alone. But no matter how hard we tried to convince him that we weren't demons, he knew that it was just us getting up to our demonic tricks trying to convince him otherwise. And my friend and I are just sitting there like, okay, man, I did not expect that to be your reaction. We thought that we would tell him that we were joking and he would feel silly, but nope, apparently his parents had just confirmed the whole demon thing, which I do not think is very good parenting. Like, I'm not a parent, but when I am a dad, if my kid comes to me and is like, hey, someone on the bus told me that he's a demon, I'm not gonna be like, yeah, you're actually a chosen demon warrior, and never believe anything they say about not being a demon because they're 100% a demon. I feel like that's a good way to terrify your kid forever, I'd probably tell my kid, they're messing with you. Don't believe everything someone tells you if they start trying to convince you you're a demon. But it probably did keep them away from video games. If that was their only goal, like all parenting aside, if the only goal of his parents was to make him stay away from video games, convincing him that it would turn him into a demon is a pretty good way of making him be like, nah, video games aren't for me, bro. Regardless, my friend and I still talk about it to this day from time to time about how bizarre that entire situation was. I wouldn't recommend convincing your kid that video games turn people into demons, but hey, I guess you can do what you want? I don't know. Moral of the story, if you're ever presented with a situation where you can pretend to be a demon and mess with somebody, just go for it. You got nothing to lose. But yeah, on that note, I think that'll do it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I know this was a little bit of a shorter one, but I thought you guys would like it. And if you did like it and you've appreciated the daily uploads recently, the least you could do for me is leave a comment. That's right. Guilt tripping. It's always effective. jokes aside, if you do want to comment or like the video, I would appreciate it. No pressure. And if you like videos like this, you should subscribe. I'm trying to post daily for a while, so you are not going to want to miss out on all that content. So subscribe, turn on notifications. And if you like these videos but you want to listen offline without gameplay, whatever floats your boat, I do post the audio version on Spotify. A link to it is down below. Feel free to check it out. And if you need something to listen to while you're doing your homework, chores, or whatever, I also have a playlist here on YouTube that you can find in the description of my favorite story times from the year so far. But yeah, on that note, I think that'll do it. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace.